the last ones?
I don't know.
I have last month's meeting right here.
Yeah, see if it's in there. Take a look. I didn't bring last one. Last
What's the
was
record
pretty
for latest
light.
ZBA meeting?
Right here's Conduit
Oh,
Street.
all right. That must be.
11.
And why did we continue that?
Wait, you asking an old man?
Since I've been around, they can't go past that. They can't go past
All right,
the
well,
Oh, they had to
sidewalk.
come in with new plans or something. I think that's what it was.
Was it?
Yeah, I
In
think
all
they had to come in
reality,
with new plans.
keep the comments and questions short
I
unless
think the
they're
plans
absolutely
were incomplete.
necessary. Keep the 2 cents short, and we might get out of here before tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they were looking to make a super big property here in relationship to the existing property.
So we have 17 Herrick Road and
Does that
11
ring a bell?
Herrick Road on it.
Nothing rings a bell when it's a month old.
Yeah.
Yes, because they're two separate, because they're gonna be two separate lots.
We'll
Take
take
it
it
as one.
scratch.
Well, I hope we merge them.
We're
Well, I think
going
they're all
to
here for
merge.
Marvin
They'll
Street.
get merged.
And,
I can imagine.
Herrick Road.
yeah,
One and not the
Okay.
other.
But the
I'm
problem
just
is that
guessing.
because it's 2 separate lots, it needs 2 separate notices and 2 separate blah, 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 but you
Looked
have
to me like it was gathered that much attention.
interconnected.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna be putting a multifamily in that area?
But
Yeah,
they
it's
did
the
that
same
because they were told
footprint.
at the last meeting that that would be
But
an issue.
4 units,
And they're probably
you know,
not
instead of
That that would be an
two or
issue.
three.
The fact that when they changed the lot line, if they
Yeah, I
didn't
drove
do
by.
the new public hearing for 11, then we wouldn't be able to decide on anything for 17.
Yeah, but
It would still
sometimes,
hold
you know,
the
you push the
project.
envelope too far.
So their hope is that they put 11 on.
See how the
We
story
vote
plays
on both
out.
of them tonight, they can move their project forward.
You know, honest to God, I'm in your boat with this.
What? Live on Rama?
Yeah.
So the senior citizens at the table would like you to.
Well, that's why we're here. I'll fake it though. I'm sure we can fake it. Is there a flag here? Yeah, right there. I see it, I see it.
We'll go, before you go till midnight. So you might want to keep all that chortling into your stuff. This is the latest.
You can't go back to 11:30.
Yeah, we'll see about that, won't we? When you you don't have one, you're gonna see one.
Well, that is at the.
I'm pregnant, you're gonna take it away? We'll see how that works. I don't want that thing. Oh, see, I knew I missed something in life and it was marrow.
That ain't right.
Oh, oh.
What is today's date, the 12th, right?
12th, yeah.
So we're getting this today? The addendum, per se? Right.
Right. You guys good to go?
Yep.
You guys good to go?
Yeah.
Good to go? All right, let's gavel in. Let's call this meeting to order. Please, everybody rise and please pledge allegiance. And I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome everybody. You all have the misfortune of attending a meeting with probably the densest and longest agenda in my 10-ish year history here. So this is it's no fun up here. It's going to be less fun for you guys. I would encourage if you all have a look at the agenda. Maybe you don't have it, but I'm going to be calling a few things out of order because I would perceive them to be easier. The easier items, A, it gets people out of the room, and B, I think the easier items will save us some time, because as it stands right now, each matter is going to get about 22 and a half minutes. That's not extraordinarily thorough, and doesn't leave anybody very satisfied at the end of the hearing, which way it goes. So to that end, I'm going to call a couple of things out of order. We're going to take the 2 continued public hearings. First, there is a new public hearing that's going to be attached to the 17 Herrick. That'll be 11 Herrick. Then we will do 18 Catuit Street. Then we will jump to a couple items down the agenda. We will do 64 Patriot, third. And then fourth, we will do, 80 Holly Ridge. And then we will go in order on the agenda after that. So to the extent anybody needs a break from the monotony of what is a public meeting, feel free to go outside. Conversation in this room is going to be awfully hard to manage. That's why I'm going to encourage folks to take it outside the room. the microphones aren't going to pick it up, but your neighbors aren't going to be able to hear what's going on. So with that, let's call up, where are we putting folks? Over there?
I think that's the
So-
podium.
No, there's the podium. That's a long trek. Sorry. Yeah, so come on up. We're going to do 17 Herrick as continued public hearing, and we are going to open, if you would, Mr. Clerk, would you dig up the 11 Herrick and open that one as well?
You wouldn't have it handy, would you?
Yeah.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center, 12R Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, at 7:30 PM. To all parties interested in the petition of Thomas Zarenko, am I saying it correct? Zarico, for property at 11 Herrick Road, map 16.0, parcel 16, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting variances pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.1, lot area, 195-7.2, street frontage, 195-7.3 yards, setbacks. A variance from section 195-7.1, lot area, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for lot area in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Lot area proposes 8,809 feet. The required lot area per table 2 is 12,005 feet, 500 feet. The relief variance needed is 3,691 feet. A variance from section 195-7.2, street frontage, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Street frontage proposed is 85 feet. The required street frontage for table 2 was 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 15 feet. A variance from section 195-7.3 yards setbacks, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one front setback in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Front setback proposed is 20.5 feet. The required front setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 9.5 feet. A variance from section 195-7.3 yards setbacks, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one side setback in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Side setback proposed is 7.8 feet. The required side setback per table 2 is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 7.2 feet. There you go. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the office of the zoning department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesdays from the hours of 8:30 to 5:30, and Friday from the hours of 12 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, Mr. D. Paul Cock Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Thank you for that dramatic reading, Mr. Clerk. So I gave everybody a macro view of how we're going to manage. Now the micro view is, since we have such limited time for all of these hearings, we unfortunately going to be about a 25-minute limit, which means that we're going to get about 5 minutes as an intro, 5 minutes of questions. Again, this is just a rough guess. This is to manage some expectations here. It's not going to be 300 seconds on the nose. Roughly 5 minutes of an opening, roughly 5 minutes of questioning, roughly 5 minutes from the gallery, and then the last 10 minutes-ish are going to be for any additional questions for the applicant and for the board to deliberate and vote if that's the direction that one of these hearings is headed to. So with that, Mr. Zarico, thank you for coming. Why don't you tell us where we've been in the last month or so?
Okay, and this is the ongoing, Tom Zarico, by the way, 1665 Great Pond Road. This is the evolution of the variance that was requested for 17 Herrick. These two lots are adjacent and intertwined. They can't be decided separately. That's why we're hearing them together today. For anybody who wasn't here previously, and I think all of the notices for this 11 Herrick variance, the notices were sent to the same abutters list as the other variance, so it should be all the same folks being aware of this dual application. We started out with a separate lot that was existing, pre-existing non-conforming, in the first application for 17 Herrick to build a house on that road compliant with setbacks, but with request for relief for area and frontage. In the evolution of the discussion with the neighbors and with the board, it appeared that, that I think most people were suggesting that we try to balance these lots. Lot 11 being a little bit larger, street number 17 being a little bit smaller than average in the neighborhood. So in response to that, we submitted this revision to 17 to make the lot a little bit larger. That meant taking some property from 11, which is the new variance application. The lots are a little bit more balanced, and the additional variances here on the new application are strictly in response to what we thought was the preference and the request of everybody involved to do so. Nothing's changing on 11 in terms of the physical structure that's there, structures that are there. That's intended to stay the same. Any nonconformity are existing nonconformities in terms of the structures other than the side lot setback to the new lot line, which we moved closer to the garage. I think at the last hearing, the board also asked, in response to some of the public input, for some consideration to be given to drainage. I think it's in your package, but in response to that, I added roof infiltration chambers to the right side of the house to catch all of the impervious runoff from the roof and keep it on site. So I don't know if there was anything else that was outstanding in terms of questions there, but that's pretty much the summary.
Okay, I don't know if there was anything outstanding, but what's the result? Can you give us a picture of the
Yep.
the final product of the lot lines? And
Sure. The original lot line, as you can see.
Could you stand back so we can see a little bit?
Sure.
please? There you go,
Is
thanks.
that better? The original lot line was here. We moved it 15 feet, taken 15 feet from 11 Herrick and applied it to 17 Herrick. That makes 11 Herrick 8,909 square feet, and it makes 17 Herrick 7,170 square feet. This chart, you can see it's as large as I can print. There's essentially 26 homes in the immediate neighborhood, or what I referred to in the past as the immediate neighborhood. 11 Herrick would still be the fourth largest lot in that group. 17 would be the 11th largest lot out of 26. We had some discussion about the size of the home proposed on 17. It's 1,880 square feet as planned. There was a question that came up at the last hearing about whether or not reducing that would alter anybody's opinion, and I think there was one person who said that it might. I didn't propose to alter that. The four houses that immediately abut this proposed house average 2,020 square feet. So this house that's proposed is 7% smaller than the four houses that surround it. So I didn't think it was meaningful to shrink it further and compromise new home construction standards and lifestyles.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Kent? Okay. Anything from the board for the applicant? All right. Nothing. Seeing and hearing none. Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to be heard on this? We are going to keep things. Come on up. As a reminder, we're going to have roughly 5-ish minutes for this phase of the commentary. So, is there? Actually, you know what? I'll give you some intel. Is there anyone else that will wish to be heard on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you've got about 20 seconds.
No, he can take as much time as he'd like, and we'll accommodate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name's Tony Capichetti. I work for Hayes Engineering at 603 Salem Street, Wakefield, Mass. I've been retained by one of the project abutters at 18 Lyman Road. Well, I think the project itself is a well-reasoned and thought-out approach. The issue here is that there's not been a substantial case for hardship. Essentially what you have is a lot that was purchased in 2000, common title, common ownership. There were two parcels of land, one being 10,366 square feet, the other 5,613. Neither parcel conforms to the current zoning ordinance in the R4 district. Under common law, the merger doctrine states that those two laws would be combined to create one lot conforming to zoning. So for zoning purposes, the Gibbs own a single lot having 15,979 square feet. There's been a lot of, talk about some of the issues that the Gibbs family has gone through, and I feel for that. However, none of these rise to hardship for lending to lot shape, size, or topography. Basically, what they're trying to do is subdivide a single lot into two new lots, which is in complete derogation of the zoning bylaw. So what I'm here for on behalf of the abutters is to ask them to either withdraw without prejudice or the board to deny the variance request. And I feel strongly that upon appeal, this would not hold up to the merits of the standard of variance. Thank you.
Just keep moving it along.
please.
Encourage others to come up.
Good idea, thank you.
So, again, we're one of the families, Mark Creedy, 18 Lyman Road. We're one of the families most impacted by this petition requesting multiple variances. Should it be approved?
Are you the direct abutter behind you?
Direct abutter, right behind, yes, yes. This home would certainly eclipse anything that we see as daylight behind our home. So I'm deeply saddened that this Pandora's box has been opened. I think you've heard from Hayes Engineering that there's a question of whether or not it's even possible to do this. I've attended every meeting pertaining to this variance request, and I've been quite vocal about my opposition to building a new home on this non-conforming lot. I'm not going to repeat all the past points. 12,500 square feet are required for it to be a conforming lot, let alone the other setbacks. My statement tonight is very simple. I ask you to finally shut this proposal down. While well-intended, any considerations of the variance should not be a measure to relieve the Gibbs of their plight from the Columbia Gas explosion. That is a separate issue between the Gibbs and Columbia Gas and is irrelevant in this decision. So I urge you to please, again, shut this down.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yep, come on up. In order to save time, whoever else wants to, why don't we queue up behind her so that we don't have downtime?
Leslie Kolpinski, 19 Little Road. I'm strongly opposed as well. I agree with all my neighbors. We are here tonight to ask you to please oppose this as well with us. My one question is I have from the website, the zoning board website, Article 195-9.2, alteration or extension, and I'd be happy to pass it over to you. Line B says, such change shall be permitted only upon the same lot occupied by the non-conforming use on the date that it became non-conforming. The larger quote-unquote lot is occupied, and they're saying that the smaller lot is a lot, which Mr. Capichetti says that they should have been merged. I also consulted with a real estate lawyer, and he says that it should have been merged long ago. So why it wasn't merged is a definite question that we have. And he looked it up, and he said that it should have been merged before they bought it. It should have been merged long ago. That's usually how things happen. And the fact that it wasn't merged is a huge question in our mind, is why was it never merged? But that's my question, is if we're saying that there's a larger lot and a smaller lot, then change shall be permitted only upon the same lot occupied. So the quote-unquote smaller lot was never occupied. So I don't think that, according to this, it can be changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Carol Sumner, 12 Little Road. I'm just going to reiterate my opposition to this project, as is most of the neighborhood, and respectfully ask that you take that under consideration.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, Jennifer Fraser, 25 Herrick, and my family again is a direct abutter of the proposed project, so I'm just here again one more time tonight to state my opposition publicly and urge you to vote against the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lauren Creedy, 18 Lyman Road. I live directly behind this proposed lot. I agree with the points that have been made tonight, and I am strongly opposed to any house being built, regardless of style or size.
Thank you.
Lisa Kolpinski, 15 Lyman Road. My concerns have been voiced by the others, and my only addition is, in friendship, at times you have to say, you're going too far, you're asking too much, and so in friendship I'm saying I'm opposed because it's going too far and you're asking too much. I hope you'll oppose this.
Thank you.
Dave Rule, 25 Herrick Road. I'll make this short since we're short on time. I'm opposed to any property that go at 17 Herrick Road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mark Davis. I'm 66 Herrick Road. I'm opposed to, what is a fundamental change in the neighborhood by adding additional housing and by also not necessarily considering the impact on what it has in the home values in the area, especially in how it's built, where it's built. And I just really also went through the Columbia Gas disaster myself and with my family, and just kind of feel that this is a little bit opportunistically timed, and just feel that I'm against this change. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing. All right, come on up.
William Gibbs, 11 Herrick and 17 Herrick. I have a letter from a neighbor to whom it may concern. We have been members of this neighborhood for over 10 years and live almost directly across the street from the lot where the proposed build would take place. It would be nearly impossible to get the neighborhood to agree that a new building is in everyone's best interest. We all worry about what we can't possibly know. Will the house fit in? Will this affect our property values? Will it cause even more water and drainage problems than the already wet neighborhood presently has? Will it affect our view? Will there be additional traffic on the street? Are we setting a precedent? And at our lowest moments, we fear the worst outcomes for all of these questions. This has caused a formerly tight-knit neighborhood to divide itself, some feeling loyal to the Gibbs family, never wanting to get in the way of what might help them as they get back on their feet, others worried about their own properties, their views, the green space, the bylaws, and the what-ifs, and still others not wanting to come down on a side because choosing means someone will be upset. The divisiveness has been noticeable in this neighborhood that stood together with such strength and companionship during the Columbia Gas crisis is now uncomfortably split. Though we fear we're making some enemies by saying so, we think it's important to make known that we are not opposed to this build, nor are we overly worried about any of the possible undesirable outcomes mentioned above. Based on the last plans we saw, we do not believe that having a tasteful house on that lot will have any effect whatsoever on the well-being or quality of life of anyone in this neighborhood. And it's signed by the neighbor.
Who's the neighbor?
Yep, for the record, please.
Julia and Andrew Henderson. I don't think they're, 12 Herrick.
Across the street.
Across from 11.
Thank you.
And that's it.
I'll keep it really brief to one
Please.
sentence. Mark Creedy, 18 Lyman Road. So I appreciate that perspective from the neighborhood. It's one neighbor's perspective. I don't know how these final decisions are made or how the board determines what is fair in this case. In my mind, the town struggled with this question of fairness and came up with a bylaw so that there was an unambiguous rule to govern the actions of the town members. That's all I'd like to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just for the record, the board has received a letter signed by Mark Dockery, Carrie Dockery, Joseph Reese, and Tabitha Lebrone, I think. I dated November 12th. I'll just read it quickly because it's only 2 paragraphs to make sure that all the voices are heard. Due to scheduling conflicts, we are unable to attend tonight's meeting to discuss the property at 17 Herrick. We wanted the board to note our objections to the variances being requested. We believe that due to the number of variances, combined with the amount of relief requested, far exceeds what we would consider minor. In our opinion, granting these variances would set a bad precedent in our community by allowing new construction in a lot with such a reduced area and frontage. And again, that's Mark Dockery, Carrie Dockery, Joseph Reese, and Tabitha Lebrone. So with that, we will come back to the applicant, Mr. Zrico. Mr. Zrico, you want to come on back up? This is the 300 seconds in which allow you to respond to any of the comments and first, if you like, and/or we can have the board ask questions.
Yeah, I mean,
Mr. Zrinko, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would you like to confer with the current owners before you say anything?
n-
I saw you trying to talk to them and you got kind of.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I would like to talk to them, I think, before a vote is taken, if I can have that courtesy for 30 seconds or 40 seconds.
No, I
but-
think it would be nice
but,
because of the circumstances with
yeah.
Lake State Gas and everything else.
Yeah.
If you could confirm with all the opposition
Yeah.
that we try and make the right decision.
Yeah, I get it. I
Okay.
guess the question, I understand everybody's concerns. I understand the issue of merger. I guess there's some interpretation there, or to some people there is. I mean, this lot has been separately assessed. It shows up as a separate map. To the extent that that means anything in the process. Don't have too much else to address on that. And I think we've known that change is hard. I mean, I don't think there's anything specific other than that question. Change is hard. Nobody wants the neighborhood to change. I get that. I understand it. There's really not too much that anybody can say to dispel that concern. Trying to change in the best way that I know how. I think everybody knows, everybody who knows me knows we came into this sincerely. Made a tremendous effort to respond to and to consider everybody's comments along the way. I think this is our 4th hearing. We didn't shy away from anything. Tried to address and deal with questions as they came up. So, I don't think there's anything else to add from my perspective.
Anything from the board?
The people have received a separate tax bill for this property?
Yes.
So the property they own, they received 2 separate bills, one for the house they occupy.
Correct.
And one for the extra lot of land.
That's correct. Yeah. For 19 or 20 years, yeah. And any
So
time
the
before that.
property was never blended together?
No, it was
Okay,
never
it was always
officially.
an individual distinct lot.
Yes, yeah, I mean, these lots were created in, I think, 1922. Again, and it's remained in its current form, despite the merger issue, so.
Okay. If there's nothing else from the board, then what I would suggest is, why don't you confer with the applicants? I guess the second thing that I would ask is, the application for 11 Herrick, I believe, changes the relief needed at 17 Herrick? Or does it not?
No, it does not.
It does not? Okay.
It actually minimizes
It reduces
the
the
frontage request
The lot size change.
and the lot size. I mean, it doesn't increase any
It
of
does-
the requests.
So if there's going to be a vote on this, we're going to need to read what the relief requested is, and if the lot size has changed, then it looks like the second request, the second variance, the lot area proposed is 5,613 feet, the required lot area is 12.5.
Yes, that's correct.
6887 is the variance needed, so if you could,
Yeah.
if you have that arithmetic, I'm happy to scratch it in now.
I do have it. The corrected or the current proposed lot size is 7,170.
This is for 17,
This is
just
for
to mention.
17.
Okay.
7,170. That relief, I'd have to ask for somebody with a calculator to make that.
And the other one is 8,809.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
It's right here. Here you go.
I don't think there's anything further to add. Just I appreciate the couple of seconds to
Thanks.
discuss that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zarico. All right, so then we'll close the public comment portion of this, and the board shall deliberate, and then, so we are going to be going to a vote tonight, Mr. Zarico? Thank you. So the comments amongst the board, not for the applicant, not for the gallery, but amongst the board.
My other comment is this, is the town has been charging them for a separate lot. The two lots were never blended together where they received one tax bill. There's two distinct, different lots. And because they've been paying their freight the whole way on the second lot, I think they deserve a break today, especially after what they went through with the Columbia gas thing.
Take Columbia Gas out of it, does that change your?
It's still a separate lot.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
They're getting a separate tax bill. Okay, forget the Columbia.
I don't disagree with you on that, I'm
Okay,
just.
they're getting a separate tax bill.
I feel in a little bit of a bind here because of sort of the sort of polar opposite viewpoints on this. You know, I feel like there would be a lot of leverage to change this plan that Mr. Zirico has put forward to, you know, change the way the lot's designed, to change the way the residence is designed, and I, you know, if the abutters had sort of come forward and say, we would be willing to accept this property and this change if, like, they did X, Y, Z, I think they would have a lot of leverage to do that. But instead, we're sort of stuck in a you know, binary here, and that makes the decision a little bit tougher for me.
Just a comment on the lot sizes. And this is what we inherit in the area that we live in, and that the lot size, if I'm understanding this correctly, of the neighborhood, not just these lots, the lots in discussion, but the whole neighborhood, it existed before the bylaws, and the lot sizes which are creating the variances that are there. So it is, I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that this is another dilemma here of what came first, the chicken or the egg.
So I used to live on Herrick Road, and the lot we had was certainly smaller than what was required. And I just, from the plans and the site plans, I think if that house had been built already and you walked past it, it would look like it completely blended in and fit into the neighborhood. I don't see how, you know, I don't see what impact one house that looks like almost every other house in the neighborhood is going to have. So I'm supportive of it.
Mr. Zarico, can I just see your board that has all of the square footage and numbers?
Mrs. Rico, while Ms. Jacobs looks at that, would you kindly come up for a second? So just to educate the gallery, when the board votes on a matter, it always votes in the affirmative. There are ayes and nays. So just because the motion is made to grant the variances or grant all the relief, does not mean that that's the way it is going to go. But to that end, Mr. Zarico, we have to like put a motion together. And I just want to be clear on what the board will be voting on. The 11 and 17 Herrick plan that came for today's meeting,
Correct.
that overrides all of the others.
Correct.
So the only plans that we have, I think, is this 11 by 17, and then these renderings.
That's correct.
Is that accurate, or are there any other exhibits that?
No, that's accurate, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me one second. We're talking about the renderings that are dated 3/22/19 by a Michael Wall.
Yes.
Yeah, don't ignore the date. We went through that last meeting,
Right,
remember?
But that is what's in the file, yes. Yes,
Right,
that's
but this
correct.
is what we're gonna be referencing.
Yes.
Okay. That's all.
Okay.
I know the date, something was wrong with the date, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Right, and I got it circled.
Yes.
But I just wanna make sure we're talking
Yeah.
this thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say, Alan, I hope that young man was not punished,
Okay.
but that he was forced to watch the zoning board last
I
month.
understand.
Somewhere else.
That is punishment.
I admire the humor, and in the interest of time, I'd like to move the meeting along if we could. Is there anything from you, Ms. Jacobs, regarding the board?
No.
My question, did we make an official vote to close the public hearing?
Yeah,
No, we did not.
It's just kind of paused verbally. There has not been a motion to close the public comment. Would you like to make a motion to close the public comment?
You wanna move it along?
Yeah.
Okay. I make a motion to close the public comment on this.
Motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Closed public comment. The board is deliberating or continuing to deliberate. Is there anything else from the board? Any other comments? Questions for each other?
Nope.
Nothing. Then shall there be a motion, Mr. Clerk?
I make a motion to approve. You have all the,
I would just read these
okay.
paragraphs with those edits.
I'd like to make a motion to request a variance from section 195
We're going to approve. The motion is just to approve the variances.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a variance from section 195-7.1 lot area of the zoning bylaw for lot area in the R4 zoning district to construct a new home. Lot area proposed is the 7,170, correct?
Yeah, that's the edit here. Sorry.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
The square feet. The required lot area is 12,500 square feet. The relief needed is
5330.
5,330 square feet.
Yes.
The applicant is also requesting a variance from section 195 point,
This is 17.
from 195.72 street frontage
Yes.
of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 zoning district to construct a new home. Minimum street frontage proposed is 50 feet. The required side setback is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 50 feet.
They need
Excuse me,
they need
yep.
65
The
feet.
corrected number is 65 feet on that, so a relief of 35.
There's 65 feet?
The 65 feet, yes.
I correct, 65 feet. Variance is requested under section 195-7.1 lot area and 195-7.2 street frontage of the zoning bylaws. That's it. Correct?
Yep, and that is for 17 Herrick.
That is for,
To 11.
that is for 17 Herrick Road. For 11 Herrick Road, a variance from section, I'm gonna start right from the start, right?
Yeah, motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the applicant to approve a variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.1 lot area, 195-7.2 street frontage, and 195-7.3 yard setbacks. I hereby go to approve a variance from section 195-7.1 lot area, table 2 dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw for lot area in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Lot area proposed is 8,809 feet. The required lot area per table 2 is 12,500 feet. The relief variance needed is 3,691 feet. A variance from section 195-7.2, street frontage, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Street frontage proposed is 85 feet. The required street frontage per table 2 is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 15 feet. A variance from section 195-7.3, yard setbacks, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one front setback in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Front setback proposed is 20.5 feet. The required front setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 9.5 feet. A variance from section 195-7.3 yard setback, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one side setback in the R4 zoning district for construction of a new house on adjacent lot. Side setback proposed is 7.8 feet. The required side setback per table 2 is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 7.2 feet. Hold on 1 second. Do these,
No, I would suggest that that be a condition, yeah, the roof infiltration chambers. And as a condition for approval, the installation of the roof infiltration.
as part of conditions of this variance would be part of a roof infiltration system?
Infiltrated chambers, I think that's.
A
what you
roof
said.
infiltration chamber on the current lots,
On the new home, presumably.
on the new homes, correct.
So that, and here's the first plan for reference.
Okay. And I'd like to reference a plan for 11 to 17 Herrick Road, plot plan, prepared by TKZ LLC, dated September 19, 2019, prepared by Sullivan Engineering Group, LLC, of Woburn, Mass. I'll also like the date, reference, and excuse me for me getting the date wrong. Okay, a schematic drawing of house renderings that consist of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages that are dated incorrectly 3/22/19, written by a Mr. Michael Wall, referencing from A101 through A105.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Did the, not to
This
steamroll
is my-
anybody, but did the board have any other conditions? Or would that, and Merrill, who is voting? Michael? Okay, thank you. So motion is made, is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
You made the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Just trying to move things along. Just trying to
I
move things
appreciate-
along.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And so we will, Michael seconded, we'll take the roll, Mr. Fagan?
Vote no.
Mr. Kusia?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Lists?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we have approval for 11 and 17, the variances. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, very much.
Good luck.
Second matter on the agenda is 18 Katuitt. For 18 Katuitt, we are going to be similarly brisk. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen, ma'am. Thank you for having us back. When we continued at the last hearing, the question was really threefold. One was the two variances that were requested, the necessity of a family suite special permit, and a butter issue that was raised with regards to drainage. I've submitted a summary letter, which I hope was all in your packets. After review of the square footage calculations of the existing house and the garage, the family suite would have been in excess, 900 square feet, as compared to like 706 square feet that would be required. And I thought that was a variance not worth asking for. Rather, my wife and I have, taken it to heart that was, going to provide a dormitory, if you will, for my dad, and that, where he still resides there, but he will have to, have his dinners with us and enjoy time with us, but still have some seclusion on his own. So the living area over the garage will be limited to 2 bedrooms, a sitting area, bathroom, and a deck.
but no kitchen and cooking facilities, which chances are I would have been cooking anyway. So I think it's all academic. So we withdrew the application for the special permit accordingly. But the dimensional requirements with regards to the stairway access to get upstairs and the bathroom facilities still, and what we need for storage within the garage itself, still necessitates the 30 by 30 square foot footprint. So the variances requested are appropriate. The rear yard variance, if you recall, is attributed completely to an outside deck, and that's off my dad's bedroom, just so he'll be able to just sit out there and enjoy the evenings without having to come downstairs. But
So the variances have remained static at 2.8 feet and 8.3 feet?
they are not changing, that's correct. We only withdrew the special permit.
Thank you. Meryl, is there paperwork for that withdrawal? Or are we just doing that here? Thank you.
Yes, there was, I'm sorry.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And the neighbors concerned, one neighbor who is a landlord, he raised concern with stormwater, getting down and causing an impact. The letter goes into great detail. I'm not going to take time from the podium to explain that. But nonetheless, I always intended to, and we now have showed on the plan, that we're going to collect all the roof runoff into gutters and downspouts and put it into an infiltrator in the location furthest remote from that abutters location.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I was trying to find the package.
Aye.
Okay? I'm being honest with you, okay? You're not asking for any difference in the variances, correct?
That's correct. We're going
Right.
to keep those the same.
So what is happening with the actual addition here now?
The garage will still be the two-stall garage at grade.
Well, hold on.
And the living area above will simply be 2 bedrooms. The large area will be a sitting area, a living area, and then the bathroom. So the kitchen is gone, that will become a second bedroom.
Hold on one second. The garage area is the same.
Yes.
Here's the garage area, right? All right. So the plan I'm showing has a living room and a bedroom, right?
Correct. And where the kitchen area is shown, if you would ascribe a line off of halfway of the front dormer,
Oh,
that would be
yeah.
a second bedroom, and then the remainder of that area would be just a sitting area.
So the kitchen is gone?
Kitchen is gone. What
So-
happened is we have on our first floor in our existing house, we have 2 bedrooms. The stairway where it comes down, where it would adjoin, would actually, would have been shared. All of our kids have grown up and moved out, so it's really only when kids come home for visits and whatnot. We would have not so much lost that bedroom, but we would have lost the functionality and privacy as a bedroom. So we're regaining that by putting the bedroom up above.
So there's no kitchen, and that's the second bedroom?
That is correct.
Because of whatever's going on with the rest of the house, it works that way, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And the living room remains the same? And the stairway's the same?
Stairway will be the same, the bathroom and the bedroom as shown is the same, and 2/3 away through the dormer towards the front, which is where your pen is pointing, Mr. Butcher, will be the wall which will create that second bedroom.
I get that. And the bump out on the deck stays the
The
same?
deck, that's the rear yard variance is because of the deck. The
Right.
building itself conforms.
Right. The building itself is okay, but
Rear-
because of
no, excuse me,
this?
the building itself to the rear yard conforms, the building to the
I get it.
side yard does
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
That's the variance on the
Yeah,
side.
I get it. Okay.
So the variance is because of this.
The variance is because of this, right. For the rear setback, right,
It's a rear side,
which is this over here.
that side. Oh, this, okay.
Right, which is that over there. Okay.
And gentlemen, I believe you have
Because it's 20.
you don't have the revised plans that were submitted with this package for this evening that shows the infiltrator. So that, even though the plan is correct, the new plan has been updated to show the infiltrator. That is correct. The chairman has it.
But that shows the infiltration system?
Yes.
For the roof runoff. I get it.
I have formally withdrawn the application, but I figured 200 square feet was probably too much of a variance to request for the in-law suite. it was 706 versus the 900. So I withdrew it, just taking for granted that I thought that that was a stumbling block the last time around. So, I didn't think it was worth going in that particular direction.
Can I say something? If you go to read this, I can't read from these plans, because these plans show a kitchen
Right, so what we will do is,
and not a bedroom.
I think because we're not doing a family suite, there's not a need to necessarily plot the rooms in the living space. So I would suggest that what we will do is just eliminate, just pull from the plan packet, the floor plan.
Okay. You show me, right?
Yeah, because the variances will be, are just related
Basically for
related to
this
the
thing.
footprint.
Right, right,
Yeah.
to the footprint, right, not to the
Pardon?
interior.
Okay.
Because this is incorrect, because it shows a
Just
kitchen.
The one of the pages is incorrect, yeah.
Right,
It
right.
doesn't seem to flow through to any of the other
Yeah, I
drawings.
understand. But I just don't want to reference something that's.
Amen.
That's wrong.
If I don't get you, Michael will.
Mr. Chairman, there is a second sheet. It's the cross-section that references the kitchen, so you may want to also purge in the discussion the notation of kitchen on that cross-section as well.
Which is that?
It's right after the roof framing plan. It's building section A.
Got it.
And that's the only two notations that I saw it in.
I appreciate the awareness on that.
Oh, I see what says bedroom one, the kitchen, right? Right, because it's not, the kitchen's really bedroom two.
That's correct.
Anything else to add?
Only if there's questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Understood. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Anybody in the gallery wishes to be heard on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, guess we're going to start calling all cars. Anything else for the applicant? Nothing? Hit it, Ms. Jacobs.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Second
Comment
motion.
anyway. Public comment.
Comment.
Motion made, motion second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? No. Motion carries. So the first thing we'll do, thank you, Merrill, for noting it. We should vote on the withdrawal. Is there a motion to accept? Should there be a motion to accept the withdrawal?
I make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Here we go. I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That is unanimous. Withdrawal is accepted. Now, is there a motion for there, well, actually, there could be deliberation. Is there any deliberation amongst the board?
Nope.
Comments, questions for one another? All right, then, perhaps, Mr. Clerk, is there a motion?
I make a motion to grant the variance from section 195-7.3, yard setback, table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one side setback in the R3 zoning district to replace a one-car garage with a two-car garage and build a second-floor addition. Said setback proposed is 12.2 feet. The required side setback per table 2 is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 2.8 feet. I hereby go to approve a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setback, table 2 dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one rear setback in the R3 zoning district to replace a one-car garage with a two-car garage and build a second-floor addition. Rear setback proposed is 21.7 feet. The required side setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 8.3 feet. And I'd like to make reference of some plans submitted.
This is the front one. It's got the infiltration.
Plan submitted dated September 9, 2019, prepared by the Sullivan Engineering Group, of one sheet that was revised on 10/17/19, which shows the proposed addition and the infiltration system. I'd like to also mention,
Yeah, skip that one. Yeah, skip that one.
skip this?
Yeah, because this replaced it.
Okay. Hmm.
No, just the top layer, skip the top layer, but certainly reference the balance.
Okay, with the exception of one page.
Yeah, 2 pages.
Right.
We'll get you.
Okay. I'd like to also, in addition to the plot plan that I just mentioned, that was dated September 9, 2019, revised 10/17/19, to include plans, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 9, page 10.
Skip 10.
I skipped the one with the kitchen.
Yeah, 10 also has the kitchen.
10, 11, and 12.
Motion, I think that's all of them. That's everything.
That's everything, right?
Motion made. Is there a second?
I second motion.
Motion made and seconded. We'll go down the roll. Steve, this one's yours?
Yeah.
I think.
Well,
All right, Mr. Fagan?
Yes.
Mr. Kusia?
Yes.
Jacobs?
Yes.
Said yes. I am an aye, so all are in favor. Your variances are approved. Next, we are going a little bit out of order. We're going to take 64 Patriot Street next, please. I am never going to get these decisions done right.
Sorry. I know it was evil.
Hi, good evening. If you could introduce yourself, name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Knapp, 64 Patriot Street.
All right, and Mr. Clerk, would you kindly open the hearing?
Well, let me find it first. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120 rear Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, at 7:30 PM to all the persons interested. The petition of Thomas Knapp for property at 64 Patriot Street, map 13.0, map parcel 17, North Andover, Mass. 01845, in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, Section 195-7.3, yard setback, Table 2, dimensional requirements to construct a second-story addition in the R4 zoning district. Variance from Section 195-7.3, yard setback, Table 2, dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one front setback in the R4 zoning district to construct a second-story addition. Front setback proposed is 28.55 feet. The required front setback per Table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is, everybody waiting for this? 1.45 feet. Okay, application and supporting materials are available for review at the Office of the Zoning Department, located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Friday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Per order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Cock, Jr.
Your comedic timing is impeccable, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Knapp, good evening. Tell us what's going on today.
I currently have a ranch, 1,100 square feet. I have 4 kids, myself and my wife, looking to add in some more bedrooms. I meet all requirements on left, right, and rear side of the house, and only need 1.44 feet in the front for a 2-foot cantilever off the front. I am just asking for that hardship that I could build up.
Can I say something to the board? I usually drive by all of the notices, the variances that are here. I made an exception for you, young man. I did not drive by your house.
My current roof line that sticks out past my house
Okay.
is actually 3 feet. So, but it's technically an overhang, so.
Can we close?
I have no problem with it.
Can we close?
Any questions for the applicant? Anyone in the gallery that wishes to be heard on this matter? Anyone? Seeing and hearing none. Once again, any questions? No?
I make a motion to close the public comment.
I second.
Motion made and second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No, that is unanimous. Public comment is closed. Is there, do we need deliberation, board members?
No.
Mr. Clerk?
I hereby make a motion to approve the applicant that's requesting a variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.3 yard setback, table 2 dimensional requirements to construct a second-story addition in the R4 zoning district. I hereby make a motion to approve a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setback, table 2 dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaws for one front setback in the R4 zoning district to construct a second-story addition. Front setback proposed is 28.55 feet. The required front setback per table 2 is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 1.45 feet. I'd like to make reference of a plan written by Mrs. Jennifer Pocaro. Who's that, your wife? Of 64 Patriot Street, North Andover, dated July 11th. The plan is drawn by a Mr. Steven Stepinski, dated 7/11/17.
We have some undated, 5 pages undated.
And we have some unsigned, undated schematic drawings of the proposed addition, which numbers, hold on.
5 pages.
5 pages. I'll take the chairman at his word.
Motion, any conditions from the board? Motion made, is there a second?
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Frank, this one will be yours, I guess. Yep. Call the roll, Mr. Fagan.
Aye.
Mr. Kusha.
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs. And I am an aye, so you are approved unanimously. Thank you for your time.
I'm glad that's out of the way. That was a hard one.
And then we are going to take 80 Holly Ridge Road, please.
You're really testing my reading ability tonight, huh?
It ain't me, cousin. Hi, good evening. Your
evening.
name and address for the record.
Kimberly Maroney, 80 Holly Ridge Road.
Thank you, Mr. Kusha.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120R Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, November 12, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. To all parties interested in the petition of Kimberly Maroney
Maroney.
for property at 80 Holly Ridge Road, map 98.B, parcel 21, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R2 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.2Q, for a family suite in the R2 zoning district. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the office of the zoning department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Friday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Cog Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening, the floor is yours. Why don't you tell us what's going on tonight?
We are requesting a special permit to construct a family suite addition to our home. Our oldest daughter is on the autism spectrum, and looking ahead, we're looking to provide an area which gives her independent living and privacy while still having accessibility to our family support.
Would you tell us a little bit about the addition that you're going to be making?
It will be, it's a total of 793 square feet. That is 19% of the current square footage of the house, so it meets, comes in underneath the 25%. It will consist of bedroom, living room, sitting area, kitchen, bathroom. And this will be accessible through the current house There'll also be an enclosed stairway through the garage, which will be underneath. So the addition will be a first floor addition. Currently, we have a garage underneath, and this will be a two-car garage added underneath, and then this will be a first floor addition to the side of the home.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
No questions. Pretty straightforward.
Any questions on this end?
Are there any drainage issues that you foresee off of this?
No, we did some pretty extensive work on our home about 11 years ago, and during that, we put in extensive drainage, underground drainage, and so we anticipate that the drainage, for the addition will tie into that, and so it goes underneath and out to the side of the property, so there shouldn't be any issues.
Anything else from the board? Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to be heard on this matter? Once going twice, seeing and hearing none. So the only thing that I will say is, and I think that you're clear on it, because this appears to be a very well put together packet, and you appear to have actually read the bylaw. Thank you for that. So you're obviously in conformance with the square footage, and it sounds like you said it was going to be your daughter that was going to live there. And I just say for the record, for the gallery, for anybody watching at home, that family suites must be occupied by brothers, sisters, maternal parents and grandparents, in-laws, and or children of the residing owners of the principal dwelling unit. So this is not an apartment, this is not a rental unit, this is not a money-making venture. This is not to be listed as a two-family home, it is not to be treated as a two-family home. This is a home with a family suite for which a person, generally speaking, on the first degree of relationship will be residing. If that changes, we can't have our best friend from college come and live with us, kind of thing. So I say that because family suites routinely are charged out in the neighborhoods because they oftentimes masquerade as a two-family rental unit kind of thing. So
we have no intention. And if there comes a time when she is able to live independently, we plan to use it as a first floor master bedroom for ourselves as we age.
Understood. Thank you. You also understand that upon any change of ownership,
Yes, the use
the
does not
variances
go with the
themselves, right.
transfer,
Not
yes.
into family trust, not into mother, father's name, uncle's name. Any transfer of ownership, the variance goes away.
Yes.
And make sure a realtor doesn't list it as two-family.
anything else from the board? Or a motion to close
Make
close
a
public
motion to
comment?
close public comment.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? No, public comment is closed, board shall deliberate. Anything from the board amongst each other?
No comment. I'll just say that this seems to be an ideal case for what this law is for. I mean, it's for a family member, and it's the right size to fit the bylaw, so I see no problem.
I'd echo that, and is there a motion, Mr. Clerk?
I make a motion to approve a variance for a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.2Q for a family suite in the R2 zoning district at 80 Holly Ridge Road, map 98B, parcel 21. And I'd like to reference a plot plan drawn by a Hayes Engineering, Inc., dated September 25, 2019. The plot plan and some design plans drawn by J.D. LaGrasse, dated 9/17/19, that showed various elevations of the house and the property and the plans. And in the plans drawn by J.D. LaGrasse Associates, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 together. I'd like to mention that.
Motion made. Are there any petitions from the board? Is there a second?
Second, good.
Second, you can't do it. Second.
No, you're right.
Motion made and seconded. Coming back to you. Boyd?
Aye.
Excellent start. Mr. Fagan? Mr. Kusha?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs? I am an aye, so 5 with unanimous approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's totally fine.
Here, keep things moving.
Now we're, who's next? It looks like we have 203 Turnpike is next.
Good thing Ellen's not here.
I would have talked to her ahead of time.
Showing her signs.
You have me.
Which one is this? Oh, Turnpike Street.
Name and address for the record, please.
Jay Kahn, the Sign Center, 40 Orchard Street, Haverhill, Mass.
Thank you. Mr. Kusha?
Notice hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120 Rear Main Street, North Andover, Mass. on Tuesday, November 10th, 2019, at 7:30 PM to all parties interested in the petition of Jessica Keys, the Sign Center for property at 203 Turnpike Street, map 24.0, parcel 28, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the B4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-6.6D2, for a permanent ground sign in the B4 zoning district. A special permit is requested under section 195-6.6D2 of the zoning bylaws. That's it. Go for it.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Board. Thank you for hearing our application. It's actually 203 451 Andover. It's North Andover Office Park. It's a condominium trust. It is a large two-building property with a lot of professional office space in these buildings. And we're asking to replace a pre-existing non-conforming sign that was damaged by an auto accident that had been there for over 30 years when we originally built it. I do not know the bylaw when we built this sign. The last time we presented to this board was for the TD Bank sign, which was granted for a variance for the second sign in that property, and that was about 12 or 14 years ago for this same property. It is the code that is the 195-6-6.2.d allows currently for 25 square feet and 8 feet overall height. So the relief we're going to be looking for is both overall height as well as square footage. And the request is actually put back the same sign. So it is to allow going to the 195-6-4C, because it's more than 1/3 of the expense, is why the pre-existing non-conforming rights have elapsed. There is 77,600 square footage of professional office space. So we're talking about a big piece of property. This is not one office and one building. There are two main buildings. One of them happens to be almost 40,000, the other one just under 40,000 square feet. The sign goes at the main entrance on 114 Turnpike Street. There are two other entrance egresses. One is on Andover Street, and the other one is the back that is Haverhill Street, and I think that's actually Andover where the town line is. But that's a tertiary entrance that you wouldn't know about. And so this sign really does need to mark the property. The actual size of the sign is 105 inches tall, 96 inches wide, 70 square feet. So we're looking for 45 square feet of relief for its overall size. The height of the sign is 147 inches versus 96, which requires 51 inches of overall height relief to put this sign back. There are 4 tenant panels on it. They're 37 square foot each that make up the sign portion of it. So there is the address, which is the dominant, and then the tenant panels on the double-sided sign.
So the one we have in our packet isn't the right one? This isn't what...
Because of the healthcare change. So one of the major tenants is healthcare. When we first built the sign, I'm trying to remember who it was, but when we last rehabbed it, it was Saints Medical. It became Circle, which I think was a brand change. And now in their process of the build-out is the Andover Pediatric. And so we haven't put it on yet because of that is in process for early of 2020.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Unlike the other one, I drove by this. It appears there's a sign there already. It was just damaged by a car accident?
Sign is, we removed the sign.
But the two posts are there?
Correct.
Right. So you're just looking to repair what was there?
Correct.
And you have to come here?
Yeah, because... Oh, sorry.
It's because it's more than a third of the cost, and the pre-existing non-conforming status lapses, and so we need your relief on the square footage. and
Even
height.
though an accident happened and you're only going to replace what was there?
You'd have to ask building and zoning.
And zoning.
I'm just asking, that's all. I
Size-
understand.
Size-wise on anything, is anything different? I don't know if I missed it.
It is not.
So, but you said another panel was added, so is it
It's-
slightly
it's-
larger, or is it the same
No,
size?
it's same
just-
size.
And we have, so our first animal realty was supposed to be with us. Yeah. So Alan, can you help us what happened with square footage with the medical space of why you're adding? It's not additional square footage, it's a subdivide.
All I want to make sure is that the actual sign, I don't give a...
Yeah, what's in it, the actual sign is still the same size.
That is correct.
Okay, that's all I care
The
about.
actual
Yeah.
sign is, instead of there being 3 things, there's 4.
Correct.
And it's exterior illuminated?
And there's no lights on, right? It's not interior
No lights?
illuminated?
Okay, thank
Ellen,
you.
do you hear me?
Okay, so because it's 114 and that is the major entrance egress, safety helps to identify. It's architecturally pleasing. It is the original design. They are colonial finials. They're gold leafed. They match the design intent of the building itself. It enhances the property and the surrounding area. It certainly doesn't denigrate or harm others, as it's been there for over 30 years. It's substantial justice, and we request your support, and thank you for hearing our application.
What's the same?
Identical other than the subdivide of one medical space.
So the monkey and the wrench, for me, as I remember things, as soon as a nonconformity, expires, and you're here for relief, then the other nonconformities, to the extent there are any, also kind of come to the table. And it's my understanding, I'm happy to be corrected, is that there are 2 other signs. Are there 2
I
other
believe
signs?
there's one freestanding, which is the bank. That's the only other variance that I remember doing on this property.
So how many signs are on the property?
We have a master plan that was submitted a long time ago, so there's the building signs. I would have to check the property. I'm aware of 2 freestanding signs. The one at the corner of 114 and Andover Street. You actually have the whole master plan. There are directional signs up against the building, if you're going to count those as freestanding signs, but they're just directionals into the buildings. So I'm only aware of the 2. But they're only the 2.
Directory signs.
So TD
Are
Bank
they
and
planted or affixed to the building? That's kind of what I'm asking.
there are a lot affixed to the building.
Okay.
We would have to submit that as separate information and go back and do.
There's 12 total signs. As far as I can see on here, only one of them is freestanding.
The TD Bank is in the corner. Here. So that is a second freestanding sign, and I know it because I did the variance for it when we put it up.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If there was no car accident, you wouldn't be here, right?
That's correct.
End of story.
But the sign is there.
Well, I won't go there. Despite what the sign tells me to do.
It's been blanked out.
And again, the monkey and the wrench, I appreciate the end of the story from Mr. Clerk. But do we have a setback issue?
I
How
believe, because
far?
you have a plan from LaGrasse that gets us past the 10-foot setback. Yeah, it's showing us 12. So the site plan addresses it, putting it back.
Hold my hand a little bit. Where is that one?
you have, it's here, but you submitted the application. In the application is a site plan, right? So if you're oriented, it's about the, the first third of the lot. It's right.
It's actually here.
And that's
In this island.
understood. And oh, 12-1, I got it.
So visually it's here, but it's this island on the site plan.
Okay, thank you.
How long was the sign there previous to the car accident?
Well over 30 years.
Over 30 years.
About 10 years ago, we repainted and relieved and refreshed the sign. It truly was the accident that took it down.
I thought it was snow.
Oh, got mango.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Anything missing? Anyone in the gallery wishes to be heard on this matter? Seeing and hearing none.
I make a motion to close public comment.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Public comment is closed. The board shall deliberate. Any deliberations from the board?
No.
Anyone?
No.
Mr. Clerk, perhaps there's a motion.
I make a motion to approve a variance for a special permit pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-6.6D, 2 for a permanent ground sign in the B4 zoning district. A special permit is requested under section 195-6.6D2 of the zoning bylaws. And I'd like to reference, you gonna give them to me? Well, actually, there's 4 pages here, correct? Plans written by G.D. LaGrasse Associates, dated, where's the dated? Oh, July 31st, 2019. And there are, I'm gonna call it 4 pages because there's one on each side. Excuse me, 3 pages. Okay? What else is there?
There's another set over here. I'm trying to find the date.
So there's-
These are also July 31st. Signs 1, signs 2, signs 3.
I'd like to also reference 3 other site plans per se, dated, drawn by J.D. LaGrasse, dated July 31st, 2019, be it Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any conditions from the board? Seeing and hearing none. Motion made. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion made and seconded. I already lost track. Steve, yours? Mr. Fagan?
Aye.
Mr.
Yes.
Kusia? Mr.
Yes.
Jacobs?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, 127 Marblehead Street. No, you're, buckle in for this one, Mr. Kusia.
I know.
Was this really?
This is not gonna be as quick as the others, I presume.
No, we're in order now. There's,
Well,
this is a lengthy notice, so this could be a 7th inning stretch if anybody wants to take a little walk while Mr. Clerk reads the notice. Whenever you are ready, Mr. Clerk.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Town Hall at 120 Main Street, North Andover. Oh, this isn't at the Town Hall, is it? So how do we correct that?
Merrill posted it's been posted.
The notice reads, no, but is hereby given that the public hearing at the Town Hall at 120 Main Street. So I'd like to correct that. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120 Main Street, North Andover, on Tuesday, November 12, 2019. At 7:30 PM to all parties interested in the petition of Jean Fay, CEN 1 Realty Trust for property at 127 Marblehead Street, map 9, parcel 46, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R4 zoning district. Variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-7.1 lot area, 195-7.2 street frontage, 195-7.3 yard setbacks, and 195-8.5 design standards. A special permit is requested under section 195-4.3, 4A of the zoning bylaws. The applicant is requesting a variance from sections 195-7.1 lot area of the zoning bylaws for lot area in the R4 zoning district for a conversion of a two-family to four-family units. Lot area proposed is 4,500 square feet. The required lot area is 12,500 square feet. The relief variance needed is 8,000 square feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.2 street frontage of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a two-family to four-family units. Minimum street frontage proposed is 50 feet. The required setback is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 50 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks of the zoning bylaws for front setback in the R4 zoning district for a conversion of a two-family to four-family units. Minimum front setback proposed is 8.9 feet. The required side setback is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 21.1 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks of the zoning bylaws for side setback in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a two-family to four-family units. Minimum side setback proposed is 11.5 feet. The required side setback is 15 feet. The relief needed is 3.5 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks of the zoning bylaws for side setback in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a two-family to four-family units. Minimum side setback proposed is 1.9 feet. The required side setback is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 13.1 feet. The applicant is requesting a variance from section 195-8.5, A, C, 2, 3 design standards of the zoning bylaws. Required 3 feet, proposed 2.4. Variance requested is 0.6. The applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws. Section 195-4.3, 4A, for two-family dwelling and one-family to two-family or multifamily conversions in the R4 zoning district. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the office of the zoning department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and Fridays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Clark, Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
Yes, my name's Attorney Rick Byers, and I have an office here in North Andover at 807 Turnpike Street. And with me is the applicant, Ms. Jean Fay, who's the trustee of the San Juan Realty Trust, and TJ Melvin, who is with the Office of Christensen and Sergi, the engineer on the project. I I would want to just begin by stating that little backstory on this property or this project. Mr. Fay purchased the property 3 years ago, and he approached me, we approached the town and said, you know, what can we do with this property? A lot of you might be familiar with it. It was Franny's, I believe. I heard it. They had great candy, penny candy, and the town moderator mentioned that at town meeting. So the building itself predates zoning. So one of the reasons, and again, I apologize, Mr. Kusha, for having such a long notice. If the property is considered abandoned, we have to request all the variances that if it was not abandoned, we would not have to request probably 90% of the variances we just requested. But the building, it predated zoning. So when zoning came in, the property was zoned mixed use because it was Franny's on the first floor. And some of the people in the neighborhood might remember there might have been a second commercial business at one time on the first floor as well, 2 apartments on the second floor. So when I approached the town, I met with the planning director and the community development director at the time, and said we wanted to convert it to 100% residential. Little did I know that would entail changing the zoning, which we did at town meeting a couple of years ago, because we wanted to match it with the rest of the neighborhood, which is the R4. So we went to town meeting. Well, first, before going to town meeting, had to go to the planning board, where they overwhelmingly were in support. And at town meeting, it passed pretty overwhelmingly to change the zoning so we could put 100% residential. The current use, as I said, was the first floor was Franny's, second floor are two-bedroom apartments. The plan, so we got to that point, and now, as you know, we're in front of you to try to convert it to the 4 apartments. This is the current, obviously everyone knows what it looks like, and we brought this rendering of what it will look like. The building itself will not change as far as we're not expanding the size of the building. The structure doesn't expand. Everything is going to be contained within the current structure itself. And I did want to point, do we have the plan? So, the parking situation, and I understand it's going to be that this is the crux of the matter, I believe, from what I've heard. Right now, there's pretty much no parking. Because it predated zoning, the only thing that is there now is along the side here, a driveway on the side. So we went back and forth about how many apartments, how many units. I was working with Phil Christensen originally on this, and Phil designed it with the 8 spaces. It's not, again, we understand it's not ideal. We're working with what's there currently, and if you had a chance to drive by, or if you're familiar with the property, you would know there's not a lot of wiggle room as far as planned.
What are the bedroom units?
We're looking at doing 2 1-bedrooms on the first floor and 2 3-bedrooms on the second floor. So the requirement is, what's that? Second and third, yeah.
Okay, can I hold?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I said 2 3-bedroom units, yeah.
Yep.
No problem, yeah.
And as you know, the difference between the 2 bedrooms and the 3-bedroom, there's no difference. There's still 2 parking spaces. So the requirement is 7 spaces for what we want to do. When I first talked to Phil about it, Phil went with the 8 spaces because his feeling was if you're going to do tandem parking, make it even, and each unit gets designated their 2 spaces, one in front of the other, so you don't have people juggling and moving cars. So it's as far as each unit would be given their 2 spaces. So we actually have 1 extra space. The other thing that was pointed out by the planning board when we talked to them about rezoning, the neighborhood's familiar with it, that at one point somebody one of the owners paved over the curbing in the front, removing all form of vegetation and landscaping, and just covered over the curb. So what Gene's gonna, his plan is to reintroduce the curbing, which is what the planning board had suggested, and we were already planning to do that, replant some trees or bushes, or I should say, whatever we can in the front, and just really fix up that corner. I've been familiar with the property. I've been living in town for 22 years now, and as long as I can remember, it's looked like that previous sign, if you're all familiar with. So that's where we are right now. I don't know if you have any questions, or you wanted TJ to talk about the plan at all, or. And at this point, too, if we get through zoning, we would have to go to planning for site plan review, because we're creating more than 5 spaces, correct, TJ? Yeah. So we would have to go for the site plan review.
Just so I'm clear on what's going on here, so the 2 3-bedroom apartments
Yes.
are basically already existing in terms of like the bones of it, at least.
Exactly, yes.
And then on the first floor, you're converting the commercial space into 2 1-bedrooms.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
I just wanted to make sure I
Yep.
understood how that was going.
So at one time, theoretically,
Yes.
there were 4 units
That's my understanding, yes.
comprising of 2 individual storefronts
Yes,
and 2 apartments.
yes. That
So,
would be,
so if we start with that premises of 4 units, be it 2 stores or 2 apartments, you're really not increasing, quote, the use of the units. You're only replacing the store with a 1-bedroom apartment.
exactly. That's correct.
What occupies the parking, the future parking lots? What is that, what is there at this present time?
In the back, it's grass. It's like grass and just basically grass, yes.
I assume you will cut that tree down, right?
Yeah, yes, yes. There is grass there.
And what is the size, what is the square footage of the parking space then? How much grass would you be?
So, once we remove the pavement from the front of the building here and add some green area, we're talking about an increase of like 500 square feet of impervious on the site.
It's gonna be an asphalt driveway?
That's the plan as of now, yeah.
But we know planning's gonna wanna talk about that as well, and we're open to doing some kind of pervious. And also reintroduce some landscaping and keeping landscaping as much as we can around the side. And the other thing I was gonna point out, the only variance we're requesting that we wouldn't have to request if it wasn't considered abandoned would be in the back here. TJ can talk more about that, because it's, can't be more than 25 feet, and we're at 30 feet to get all 6 spaces in there. That's really the only new variance that we're requesting, as opposed to all the other variances, which, again, if it wasn't considered abandoned, we wouldn't be here for those.
Well, right now, there's even a bigger curb cut along Marblehead Street, right? That's all flush, right?
Yeah, yeah. Is that curb cut? Yeah, it's the
Well, it's
removal of the curb. Yeah, exactly. Which we're only going to improve any runoff on the front, because right now, like as you said, it's just all paved over and water just runs down there. So we'll be able to do some landscaping in the front where we can.
Do you actually have enough room for all of this parking? It looks tight.
There's enough room. Oh, yeah.
30 feet for 3 cars is 10 feet per car, right?
Yeah, so a typical parking space is 9 by 18, 9 by 18 and a half. So we actually have 27 feet of pavement proposed. The setback from the property line to the building is 30 feet. So we're actually trying to leave a 3-foot buffer to this property line here. So we're only proposing 27 feet. So essentially 3 parking lanes the size of a normal parking space.
Okey
Can I see the, I can't really see the rendering of the
The new one.
proposed versus, and the,
This one?
yeah.
Can you lift it up a little higher, 'cause it's hiding behind the podium
And
for us.
can we see the other one? So is this is renovations with some changes to the roof line, or is it new
Yes.
construction?
No, it's
Reno.
renovation.
Yeah.
Well, it really does show the roof line a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, yeah, yeah.
The roof line,
Those
the
expansions.
roof
Yeah.
line
Yeah,
is
the
different,
roof
right?
line for the third.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
just it's a renovation of that building to the
Yes,
roof.
exactly, exactly.
The actual footprint of the building hasn't changed.
Correct.
Right. The footprint remains, but the roof line definitely is different.
yeah, so in other words, that third floor is gonna be substantially larger than it was before, correct?
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the two singles are on the first level, and
Yes.
then the second is one of the three, and the third is the third. I'm
Side by side.
Oh, they're,
okay.
they're side by side,
Yeah,
oh,
they're
okay,
kitchen on the first floor, 3 bedrooms on the,
okay.
second.
So,
Excuse me, third floor.
so there's one main entry, and then they all have their
Yes.
entries to the units inside of there.
Yeah, there'll be the one door in the front, which I know is
Looks a lot
Tony Boyd
nicer.
likes to see. At least we used to. So it doesn't appear to be a multi-family property, but there will be 4 units, but the one entrance.
How long has it been abandoned? We
As
don't
long
know. I don't know for sure. I mean, my wife used to live on the street, so 22 years the store hasn't been open. I think it's 30 years the store hasn't been open. Ernie died in 2003.
Well, I was gonna say, I remember going into Franny's when I was a teenager, and I'm not that old.
2003. The apartment, one of the apartments, it's been vacant, I think, for a long time. The other one, I'm not sure. It was left abandoned. I mean, literally, there was stuff in there, like dishes and sink, but they were there for years. And we cleaned out the apartment just for
Yeah, you said
safety reasons.
3 years ago you bought it, and
Yeah.
it looked like somebody had just.
Yeah, it was a
I wonder
hoarder.
if the neighbor might,
Not the-
the
So
neighbors
can
might.
I ask a question? When I drove by there, on the side, there was like 3 cars.
Yeah.
So those 3 cars have nothing to do with people living in that house?
No, it's
Because
my
that house is
neighbor.
abandoned,
Yeah,
right?
my neighbor my neighbor that owns the rental property, I
So-
allow his tenants to park there.
You allow the tenants to park there?
Yeah,
For now.
For now.
for now.
To be neighborly.
You won't be making any friends with them.
I've got a very good relationship and a letter of support from that neighbor for the project. He's actually moving back into town,
Mhm.
so he's excited about it. That's what.
Anything else from the board? Is that what you're asking? Is there anybody in the gallery that wishes to be heard on this matter? Got it, at least 3.
I'm just trying to keep you moving.
Good evening. My name is Frank Stewart. I live at 101 Marblehead Street. My family owns 6 houses on Marblehead Street, 19 apartments, and we're in favor of this project because this building is just run down and falling apart, and we'd like to see the area upgraded and improved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Shipers, 266 Middlesex Street. We live diagonally across from this building. We've been there since 1969. The paving in front of the building has been there since at least 69. We've been looking forward to the renovation of this building. I've been waiting to put my lawn chair on the corner and chair the first dumpster being filled. The parking right now is in front of the building at the stop sign. Any parking that would be in the back will be a vast improvement. It's just, we just can't wait for this to happen. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I live at 280 Middlesex Street. My name is Louis Capobianco. I've lived there 30 years. This is going to directly affect my house. I'm directly behind, and my property is right there. That parking lot and on-street parking is gonna be crazy there. You're talking 3 bedrooms. I have a 3-bedroom house and 2 kids and 4 cars in mine, and we're swapping them around all the time. Lining up back to back like this, you'll have cars parked all the way there. We have enough problem with Marblehead Street, them blowing the stop sign there because they can't see it, the stop sign. When they start parking on the street, that's gonna be a problem. And I won't be able to get in and out of my driveway. So I oppose this.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure. I don't oppose them renovating. I oppose the size of the building, 4 apartments.
You're directly behind this parking area?
Directly, I'm across the street from the parking area that they're,
Oh, you're across the street, you're not the house directly behind it?
not directly behind
Because
it.
the house directly behind it has a for sale sign on it.
Right. I'm the
You're not
one.
the for sale sign.
No, I'm the one directly
All right,
across the
okay.
street. I'm across the street from that house.
I understand where you are.
And I have the lot right there, and they're gonna be backing
I
up.
thought you were the one with the for sale sign.
Oh, no, 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 no. No, no. And that house originally, from the people that own that house that is for sale, have told me that that was originally a funeral home.
Well, that doesn't matter now.
But, no, I know, but I mean, just to make it clear what the original use was, yeah. And, but the parking there, with them parking, I'll go to the board and ask them to put no parking signs on that street. My side of the street, from in front of my house, there's no parking sign from there to the corner. So it needs to be, the parking has got to be taken care of. Needs to be renovated, don't disagree with that. Just the amount of apartments and the size of the apartments. 3 bedrooms, that's 6 cars for each bedroom.
So what do you think should happen to the property?
Make it a
If you-
2-family and you can put the parking in the back, but make it a 2-family.
So you would be happy with a 2-family instead of a 4-family?
2-family instead of a 4, and that way there, it'll alleviate the parking, because that lot is tight. And with that extension on the back of the building, oh, doesn't have it yet. There's an extension on the back of the building that's about to fall down, all right? That takes up a lot of parking. This extension right here. on the
You
back of the
understand it's a 2-family, quote, already with 2 vacant units,
With 2 vacant units,
but so it's already a 2.
right. So
So
leave
you
it at
just
2.
Forget about the 2 other units.
Right. And most of it is because of the parking.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Ask you to pass one down. Lynn Rednicki, 32 Marblehead Street. I have a few more comments than I wanted to surmise, so I gave you a handout, a bunch of the neighbors signed. The property is abandoned. We have a bylaw for abandonment. It is not 2 units, it's not 4 units, it's 0. It's an empty lot of land. I would hope that the zoning board utilizes town council, gets a legal opinion before going any further. You'll see that when the Board of Health reviewed this, they don't think there's enough room on the property for trash barrels. You can read the handout. I highly suggest you get an opinion from town council and you put it through a full review.
My question to you, why do you hand this to us the day of the meeting?
Because
Why
last,
wouldn't you give it to us a week before so we would have a chance to read it? I mean,
I
I
want-
can't accept this the day of the meeting. I mean, I don't know what's going on.
tonight is the meeting. This is when we can hand things in. We're allowed to hand things in the night of the meeting. Last time I handed it in, somebody from town staff had people calling neighbors and harassing them. So if you don't want to accept it, that's fine.
Good evening, my name is John Cusick. I own a duplex on on Beverly Street, 83 Beverly Street.
Oh, on what street?
Beverly Street.
That's behind there.
Yes, sir.
Right.
And I had a very similar situation about 3 or 4 years ago, corner of Beverly and Union Street. My abutting the abutting property was a dilapidated 2-family. I don't know if you recall it or not, but they dropped it 2-family. And even though it was zoned a 2-family, they allowed 4 units to go in there. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was such a dilapidated structure that we were looking at. It was really an eyesore to the neighborhood. Everyone in the neighborhood was uptight about it. So I applaud Mr. Fay in improving the neighborhood. I think it's any improvement to any part of the downtown area is beneficial to everyone that lives in that area. And I do know that there were 2 apartments above and 2 units on the first floor, so I don't see what the issue would be, but I think the amount of money he's going to put into that corner would be a benefit to the whole area. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to be heard? Come on back up.
It's funny, I remember the project Mr. Cusack was talking about. I was on the board at the time, and it was controversial, and it turned out to be a great project for the town. In fact, meeting with town staff, the staff planner, Jean Enright, she compared it to that project that Mr. Cusack was just referring to. So, as far as declaring that, it's a vacant lot, I mean, so I don't know what the person speaking about that would like the applicant to do other than tear the building down and have a non-buildable lot, because in essence, that's what she's saying. Board of Health, I have no comment from the Board of Health. I don't know where that came from. The planning board, again, will do site plan review to discuss any matters as far as, I don't know. Again, I don't want to raise an issue that hasn't been raised with my meetings with the town planner, staff planner, I should say, and the planning director and the building inspector I've met with them a number of times on this project, so I have no other comment.
How big is the structure?
The structure,
The gross square footage is kind of what I'd be looking for.
It should say in the application. Yeah, 3480.
So that means there were roughly 1,100 square foot floor plates that you're working with?
yes.
If I may ask, so you're expanding the 3rd floor. So when once upon a time, when the 2nd floor were apartments, were those 1-bedroom apartments each?
I think there were 2.
There were 2 bedrooms?
2 bedroom, yeah.
Okay.
There's I call it like the 3rd room is barely a room. It's not, it's no insulation or anything, but people would use it for storage.
Right.
So all I'm doing is basically increasing the roof line to make an actual bedroom.
Yeah. Okay.
Just a question, kind of curiosity. Why 1133? Why not 1 and 1, left to right side? So why not a 2-family or a 3-family, first floor, and then 2 on the 2nd, 3rd floor? Why this design?
It really comes down to the economics of the overall project. It's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to renovate the building because it's been abandoned for 20 to 25 years with no work done to it. So we're talking windows, so it really comes down to the economics of the project to make it feasible. My wife and I do plan to move into one of the apartments, so we're not trying to make this a purely rental. This is a place to live, but it does have to be economically work, because otherwise I'd probably make it another 3-bedroom apartment on the first floor. That I looked at that, but the economics of it really works. To get the return on investment.
To do 3 2-bedrooms.
Yeah.
Which would still be 6 space required.
Yeah, the parking would still be pretty similar to what we're doing.
Is there anything else from the board? Nothing, gentlemen, nothing?
Yeah.
All right. Anything in closing?
No.
All right, then, is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make a motion to close the public comment.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? No public comment is closed. The board shall deliberate. Were you having thoughts, Ms. Jacobs?
I don't know, I'm processing my thoughts still.
Mr. Kusha, any thoughts on these? On-
The only thought is this, I think what the neighbor said, I drove by there. I did a house over on Union Street at the corner, right of Marblehead, Middlesex. It's a nice, that's just a complete eyesore, right? Almost anything would be an improvement, and I know what it costs to do these things over, and I have to applaud the man for making such an investment in that neighborhood. Okay?
It's not like it's a horrible neighborhood.
That house is a horrible neighborhood. The house is.
The house is, but you just made a comment.
Well, I didn't mean it that way, okay? Okay, I meant that house is a horrible thing in the neighborhood. Not the neighborhood is awful.
I know, but does
It
that?
can only make it look better, right? It can only, to all of the abutters and all of the neighbors, okay, because I'm in the real estate business, by him remodeling this house, and putting that structure there, he's giving everybody $25,000 to $50,000 more value in their particular homes.
Okay, but it kind of comes down to a meeting we had recently where, you know, the concept of the idea was great, but certain aspects of it shouldn't be overlooked.
Well,
and I kind of think the parking is.
The parking is tight, okay? The parking is tight. There's no question about that. I drove by that. But here's the way I'm looking at that. There were 4 units at one time, be it 2 commercial and 2 residential.
Okay, except for commercial wouldn't be having people.
The commercial would have a lot of cars coming and going, wouldn't they?
Seriously, Franny's? Seriously? You're kidding, right?
No.
That was like 13-year-olds who walked there. We didn't have cars. So no, cars weren't coming and going. They were driving up and down the street. It was 13-year-old kids without
Okay, so-
licenses that was going in for 25-cent candy.
Okay, so let me ask you a
10-cent
question here.
candy.
Okay. So let's go crazy here. Let's say if he decided to put 2 commercial structures in the first floors, he would really technically be allowed that, right? So let's say he decided to put a locksmith and a real estate office or an insurance agency, whatever. Okay, a penny candy store. You don't think that's gonna generate a lot of, he would, in my
What
thinking.
kind of traffic do you think insurance companies
but
get?
whatever it may be, but in my thinking, he would be allowed 2 commercial spaces on the first floor because they were pre-existing. And he would be allowed 2 apartments on the second floors. Okay? So what he's doing is he's replacing the 2 commercial units that I think, and I could be wrong, that were pre-existing that a grandfather did.
As commercial, not.
Okay,
not
and
residential.
that's why the variance is here, to convert it from commercial to residential. That's why the man is here in front of us, for that particular person,
I know,
reason.
that parking, don't get me wrong. Again, similar to a recent meeting we had, concept is great, reno idea is amazing, but you don't think we're pushing it a little bit here with the parking?
But let me ask you, who is inconvenienced by the parking in this one?
I will tell you, I think, truth be told, I think when people live in a place versus in a commercial type setting, I think people become more comfortable with their comings and goings and slack. i.e., you probably pull out of your driveway a hell of a lot faster and more abruptly than your visitor that comes. And one concern I do have is if there's already issues on the street between parking and kids and accidents, you're gonna have somebody whipping out, you're gonna have the back car whipping out real quick to let the inner car go, not paying attention, and then I sit here and think about a 5-year-old kid getting run over. Because of the way the parking is set up.
Yeah, possibly.
I just don't understand.
I have 2 daughters who live in similar situations where they have very narrow parking, different homes. They have very narrow parking and they have to do juggling. Who's gonna park in the front space, who's gonna park in the back space, who has to leave first, who has to leave second. And it's a hassle, but it's a hassle for them, it's not a hassle for anybody else.
Okay, but the
So
question.
there is a risk, just as there is that I go out of my driveway too fast, there's a risk that anybody goes out of the driveway too fast.
And then you're also dealing with, you know, I mean, listen, I don't know about whoever's going to be living in these, but I don't really know if I'd be all too keen on moving my car at 6:30 in the morning because my significant other has to go to work and I don't yet. I'd probably end up just parking on the side of the road.
And then you would get a ticket in the wintertime. Because the car would have to be off the street.
I have the same issue with my son's
Right.
car where I live. The wintertime, it's gotta go in the driveway.
So if they need to go to the planning board for site plan approval, would that typically go through the other departments in town, so the police department will look at it and comment on the safety of the driveway and that sort of thing?
I have no idea what planning does, Paul.
I don't know what planning does.
That's my experience when I've gone to other towns for site plan approval, all those other departments. So those issues would be looked at and reviewed by
Yes,
the
they
professional,
would-
the
they
professionals in
send it out
town
for
who,
Comment from the police. The police department's already reviewed this, by the way, because we started doing it on the planning board back in May.
Close.
Thank you.
I like the idea of the reno, and I appreciate the reno, and I'm sure plenty of neighbors are dying to not have to look at the eyesore. I get it. And I understand the economics of it. I don't know. I guess I question whether we're jumping the gun right out of the gate. I'll be the loner. That's cool.
Yeah, I look at it as a trade-off. I mean, you have a building that is in dire need
Okay,
of
except
renovation. And from my standpoint, while the parking is not optimal, the real inconvenience is the people who choose to be inconvenienced.
but what about the neighbors?
I've heard a number of them say they're all in favor of this.
They're all in.
I
So
said a
funny how
number
people
of, I said
can
a
be so
number of them.
single-focused.
I didn't say all.
I understand that, and I think the bigger thing becomes is people looking at one aspect. The fact that they don't want to look at this house that's dilapidated. I get that. Neither would I. But I think there's, like I say, I think there's other concerns, and I question whether we're jumping the gun on it.
well, it doesn't seem like it's that dissimilar from a number of other houses on that street.
The
This
parking.
would look nice.
The parking's my issue. It's not the
Yeah,
reno.
I know.
And listen,
I
this
think-
cannot be the only economical approach. It might be the best for the owner, but this doesn't necessarily mean it's the only one that would financially work.
So let me ask you, so if this is the only one that would financially work, using your words, wouldn't this be, putting a building like that at that corner, wouldn't that uplift the whole neighborhood? Wouldn't that increase the value of all the homes around it and the homes that abut it across the street? Would you rather have this staring at you on the corner, which is which is very visible, versus this eyesore?
Okay, except for what are the, like, if you want to look at it that approach, what are the options we're really looking at? It either stays an eyesore, okay,
Okay.
or at some point gets torn down, or he finds a way that's still financially viable for him to do a plan, but without so much parking. I mean, that's what you're looking at. It's not going to stay this way forever.
How long has it stayed this way,
It has
17
been-
years?
it has been.
20 years?
Yeah, public hearing's closed, you can't comment.
I'm sorry.
Listen, everybody's been sitting here talking about 25 years, and again, I went to Franny's. I'm not that old, so numbers are a little off here. Okay, I'm still in my 30s, and I wasn't walking around at 5.
I went there, but I am that old.
I'm just saying, I question whether we jumped the gun versus requiring other avenues. We've had people come back with 5 different other plans for lesser things than this. There was,
I don't know, on a lot that, I don't know that there are a lot of other alternatives. We're talking about parking, that's the only thing we're picking at.
right, and so if you
and I-
change the bedrooms, then you
so-
change the parking.
Well, I think you're still gonna try to get 2 spaces per unit anyways. Why wouldn't you? It's
Well, because
only an
the one
inconvenience.
bed, the one
It's-
bedrooms only require 1.5 parking. It's
Yeah,
the
1.5, so that's 2.
right, but
And it's up
if
to the
you
unit.
have 2 of
it's-
them, then that
it's up-
equals
It's up to the
3.
people who occupy the unit to coordinate among themselves. If they park illegally, they'll get ticketed. I mean, I've lived in plenty of houses where, we had a driveway with one you know, oh, one lane. It's not uncommon.
Like I say, I'll be the loner.
So there's 8 parking spots, you only need 7. Why have the 8th one if there's such a contention around parking? Why utilize the 8th lot?
Because they're all tandem anyway, so it just means one of them it would just be shorter.
Well, I'm gonna let them answer me
Oh, they
first.
can't.
They can't.
Yeah, we closed public
Oh, I'm
comment.
sorry.
See, the gun was jumped.
So you wouldn't really be picking up anything, you'd still
Well,
have
that's the thing,
those
if you-
3 across.
If you take out one, you're not, I mean, think about it, if they were to take out one, they're gonna take out the one on the side, and that does absolutely nothing, more or less. They would have to ultimately change the bedroom unit numbers in order to change the parking. It's the only way to do it. I'm done. Sorry. I know I took up more than the 25 minutes.
Everybody else done? I've lost track. Is this Frank's? Buckle in, I guess we need a motion, Mr. Clerk.
I make a motion to grant the variance pursuant to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws. The grant variances referencing a plan from Christensen and Sergi that is dated September 4, 2019, that's been revised on 10/18/19, 10/16/19, and 10/17/19. And the variance, the request that I'm presenting is to request a variance from sections 195-7.1 lot area of the zoning bylaws for lot area in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a 2-family to 4-family units. Lot area proposed is 4,500 square feet. The required lot area is 12,500 square feet. The relief needed is 8,000 square feet. I'm proposing to request a variance from section 195-7.2 street frontage of the zoning bylaws for street frontage in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a 2-family to 4-family units. Minimum street frontage proposed is 50 feet. The required side setback is 100 feet. The relief variance needed is 50 feet. I'm proposing to grant a variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks of the zoning bylaws for front setback in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a 2-family to 4-family units. Minimum front setback proposed is 8.9 feet. The required setback is 30 feet. The relief variance needed is 21.1 feet. I'm proposing to grant the variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks of the zoning bylaws for side setback in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a 2-family to 4-family units. Minimum side setback proposed is 11.5 feet. The required side setback is 11 feet. The relief needed is 3.5 feet. I'm proposing to grant the variance from section 195-7.3 yard setbacks with the zoning bylaws for side setback in the R4 zoning district for conversion of a 2-family to 4-family units. Minimum side setbacks proposed is 1.9 feet. The required side setback is 15 feet. The relief variance needed is 13.1 feet. The applicant, I propose to grant the variance from section 195-8.5, A, C, 2, design standards of the zoning bylaws required 3 feet, proposed 2.4, variance requested is 0.6 feet. I propose to grant the variance, I propose to grant a special permit to the Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.3, 4A, for 2-family dwelling in 1-family to 2-family multifamily conversions in the R4 zoning district.
Special permit merely references the same plan.
Right.
Any conditions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Fagan?
Yes.
Mr. Kusia?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
No.
Yes.
And I am an aye, so the relief is granted, 4-1. Thank you.
Can I take a little break here?
Sure. 5-minute recess, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. bring this meeting back to order. So the recess is complete. Mr. Clerk, would you kindly read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that the Board of, let's start over again. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120R Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Tuesday, November 12, 2019, at 7:30 PM to all parties interested in the petition of North Andover Country Club for property at 500 Great Pond Road, map 63, parcel 12. North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R1 and Watershed Zoning District. The applicant is requesting a variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, Section 195-4.19, uses and building requirements in order to expand the existing structure. A variance is requested under Section 195.4.19, uses and building requirements. C, non-disturbance buffer zone, comma. 2C, uses allowed by special permit of the zoning bylaws. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the Office of the Zoning Department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Friday from the hours of 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Clark Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Sure thing. Chris Huntress with Huntress Associates, Landscape Architects and Planners, representing North Andover Country Club. With me tonight are Tom Childs, who's a member of the Building Committee for the Country Club, and Jeff Isbell, who's our General Manager as well. Given the hour, I'll be brief, but certainly we'll go into any questions that you'd like to ask. We are proposing a modest addition to the clubhouse of the golf course, and the addition's about 817 square feet. It also includes a small expansion of the patio area, which is about 164 square feet plus or minus. The needs for the addition are driven by expansion and renovation of the kitchen, which hasn't been touched in a while, and expands and renovates the dining area and part of the outdoor area. The needs are driven around modernization of the kitchen and accessibility within the inside, and also some replacement of grease traps and the like. The property is on sewer, will remain on sewer, and the golf course and the club are under prior deed restrictions for use of fertilizers and phosphorus within the lawn treatment and other things. I'll take you through briefly what the addition represents. This is a proposed rendering from the backside, looking out. Great Pond Road would be out in front here. The proposed addition sits right here, and presently there's a deck here, and underneath is storage for golf carts and hand carts and things. This will be a two-story addition that's put in here, and the deck will slide over and out in this direction. And the patio, the outdoor patio, which was approved a couple of years ago, will grow by about 4 feet in this addition here. The reason that we're in front of you tonight is this work is within the non-disturbance zone of the Watershed Protection District. The adding to this existing structure, as shown, best preserves the existing slope and topography in and around the area, and that the work is immediately adjacent to the existing kitchen, dining room, and to move it in any other location would be not only cost prohibitive, but also more dramatically impactful to the surrounding landscape. As we come down to grade, although we are grading here, we're meeting existing grade pretty quickly, so the limits of disturbance are minimized and can be stabilized very quickly. We had our first hearing with the planning board last week. We're in front of you this evening, and then we'll go back to the planning board and continue that process with them as well. Again, given the hour, I'll stop the presentation there, but happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Another question, but Mr. Sharon, Mr. Childs and I sit on a board together. So as we are fully staffed, I would like to recuse myself from this issue. Just so there's no appearance of any impropriety.
Thank you for the note.
So the first concern that comes to mind is just the amount of you know, impermeable land that you're creating with the building, obviously it looks like the patio is permeable, which I appreciate. But that with the building and, you know, that close to Lake Kochewik. So can you talk a little bit about what your plan is for handling runoff and drainage?
Be
and
happy
things
to.
like that?
So when we built the patio a couple of years ago, they actually oversized the stormwater system that was underneath the patio. So as you had mentioned, it's a permeable paver surface, but there's also storage capacity under that for additional stormwater. So that's been sized by our civil engineer. We're using Merrimack Engineering, and they have run the drainage calcs to show that the small increase of impervious, which primarily happens with this roof system here, is more than capable of being held by that stormwater system.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? No. Anybody in the gallery wish to be heard on this matter? Seeing and hearing none, the ball is back in our court. I guess, any final comments?
Again, it's late, but we've done a parking review. We have 90 spaces on site. We're required to have 50 by code, so we're in full compliance there. So no, beyond that, I don't really if there's any other questions.
With the extension, what will be, you know, sort of the maximum party size that your location will support? Because I know like events are, for example, a large portion.
Not being the party planner, I'm going to defer to
This
the
is
GM
actually
here.
done into the, so this space here is sort of the party space. This is member dining.
Okay.
And really this expansion is about repurposing our area for modernization. So we do see some seating capacity, but it's not intended to boost that. It's just kind of allowing more flexibility in that space.
Okay.
Yeah, but aren't you increasing it by adding, are you adding any patio area there?
So we have a patio here, this already in this space.
Right, I understand.
So what's inside this space is a bar, and we have a kind of a very tiny bar. So we're just kind of creating a lounge space in here to allow for a more comfortable bar atmosphere.
I think your question, Alan, was driven around the extension here. All right, yes, this is getting extended by 4 or 5 feet, primarily because we're.
And is that what we granted you a couple of years ago?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Yes, it is.
That's the fire pit in the middle of it. That's the permanent.
And the fire pit is still there, I see, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Fire pit is still there, the fire pit stays in its present location, the patio just gets a little bit longer, really because we're giving up some area in the patio down in this location for circulation, access, and that kind of thing, so it's grown slightly, but again, you know, about 160 square feet plus or minus.
So I'm just looking at the existing building, the proposed building, so the actual construction, I mean, that's like an incremental 1,000 feet, is that correct?
About 817 square feet, I believe, yes.
And then would you just point out for me, that 817 is you pointed out, a new building and then that patio deck area?
So what's gonna happen to the water runoff?
Chunk of that building.
So what's gonna happen is there's gonna be a downspout right here.
Yep.
And a downspout right there, and they will gather into a pipe underneath the deck and go into a perforated pipe into that permeable area.
There's a cistern system, there's a leaching system that's underneath the
And
patio.
is there gonna be enough to handle that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's documented in our chart by the engineer.
So right now, that 817 is topography, I mean, it's turf.
Well, it's outdoor deck right now. There is a deck like this sits right in here.
Okay,
And this gable doesn't exist, so partly we're expanding across that, and there is some structure there now
okay,
that will move over.
okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board?
No.
Motion, Ms. Jacobs?
Make a motion to close public comment.
Motion made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No. Public comment is closed. The board, any willingness to deliberate?
I already asked the questions I had to ask.
All right, then, Mr. Kusia, why don't you, unless there's anything down here? Mr. Kusia, is there a motion?
I make a motion to grant relief pursuant. I make a motion to grant relief for the variance that's requested under section 195.4.19, uses and building requirements, comma, C, non-disturbance buffer zone, comma, 2C, uses allowed by special permit of the zoning bylaws.
Any plans to reference?
I'd like to reference a plan by Merrimack Engineering Services dated September 26, 2019, which shows the topography of the land and the infiltration systems. I'd also like to reference a plan by JGA Architects dated 9/25/19, which consists of 2 pages. One is an elevation page and one is a site plan, for lack of other words.
Any conditions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, the motion is made. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Fagan? Oh, that's you. I beg your pardon. Mr. Kusia?
Yes.
Ms. Jacobs?
Yes.
Gentlemen?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. The relief is approved. Thank you very much. Final item on the agenda, 5557 Ferber Avenue. Oh. I guess there's a calendar on the agenda. Good evening. Your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, Arthur Broadhurst, 45 Osgood Street, Methuen, Mass. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner, Megan Long.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
My last and final one, huh?
It's short and sweet, at least.
It's short and sweet, it is. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing at the Senior Center at 120 Rear Main Street, North Andover, Mass. on Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, at 7:30 PM to all parties interested in the petition of Megan Long for property at 55-57 Ferber Avenue, map 81, parcel 54, North Andover, Mass. 01845 in the R4 zoning district. The applicant is requesting a variance pursuant to Town of North Andover zoning bylaws, section 195-4.3A, Residence 4 District, to demolish an existing single-family home and detached garage and construct a new home in the R4 zoning district. Specifically, applicant has requested 2 residential buildings per lot, 1 residential building per lot allowed, needing a relief variance of 1 residential building. Application and supporting materials are available for review at the Office of the Zoning Department located at 120 Main Street, North Andover, Mass. on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays from the hours of 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday from the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., and Friday from the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. By order of the Board of Appeals, D. Paul Koch, Jr., Esquire, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Brown, the floor is yours.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So currently, the property is, as it sits, has 2 structures on it. It has a 3-family dwelling, and it has a single-family dwelling. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. The petitioner, who was recently married this weekend, her and her husband, and they have a young child, would like to construct a new home on this property in which they would reside in. So currently, the existing single-family home and the 3-family home don't meet current setbacks under the current zoning laws. So what their intent to do is to demolish the existing single-family home and move it to an area that would make the single-family home conform with all the current zoning setbacks and requirements, but it would still be two structures on one lot, so they would need the extension of the non-conforming use by way of variance. The existing dwelling and the new dwelling are pretty much the same size. The new dwelling would be approximately 2,300 square feet versus the existing dwelling is 1,900 square feet, so they wouldn't be creating a burden on sewer, water, or any of the public services that it isn't already doing. Aesthetically, it obviously would look nicer. It would sit on the lot better. The parking would be better. They intend on doing fencing around the back of the lot and up the side with some, obviously some trees and that. I know one of the neighbors had a concern about snow being potentially pushed back into his property, so that was one of the reasons they were, willing to put a fence back there and make sure that doesn't happen. But, so they would be taking obviously one down, replacing it in a better spot, making it more conforming than it is now.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What was, I drove by there.
Yes.
It looks like there's an empty lot there. It looks like there's been some excavation.
Trees were cut down. There were trees cut, there were trees in this area before that were cut down.
That's it?
That's
There's
it.
trees that were cut down?
Yeah.
Why is it that you are not splitting this into two lots? That seems sort of the obvious thing to do, given that these are going to be two totally separate properties.
You wouldn't have the area, you'd have two non-conforming lots if we split it.
Right, but I mean, in spirit, we're going to have that anyways.
We were led to believe that this would be the easier route than splitting it. In this particular way, we're getting a variance, we can construct the house, we could always come back and revisit that later, once it's constructed. But it's currently got two houses on one lot, we're not changing that, the only thing we're changing is the location of it. We'd have to come before the board anyway if we're gonna split it, because your three-family would need a variance on setbacks, frontage, rear, the whole 9 yards.
Because I mean, I guess like the way that I view it is that if you really wanted to treat this like one lot, then you could have two buildings and then really try to merge the parking together to try to minimize the impermeable pavement you're creating. But the design that you're proposing, it sort of looks delineated very much like it's two properties anyways.
Sure.
And so, yes, you'd have to deal with, variances for internal lot lines and things like that. And certainly paperwork-wise, it would be more complicated. But I feel like it would be a little bit more intellectually straightforward to have it as two different pieces.
What's the square footage of the single family now and the single family?
Sure, the current square footage is 1922, the new one would be 2392, so it's still a modest-sized house. And that includes the garage, I'm sorry, the 2392.
Is the plan that both buildings will be rented out?
No, this is gonna be their primary residence.
Okay, so the new building is going to be the primary
Correct.
residence, and then the existing three-family dwelling will be a rental property.
It is, yes.
Okay.
So it'd be owner occupied.
So, no change then to the existing three residential. I mean, there is no change to that. All of the.
Well, there's a change to the parking. The parking situation will change substantially for the three-bed.
Well,
You know what, I was looking into whether or not that had been that way.
he's currently got parking for 4 cars, and he's got a garage there. He's gonna be removing the garage and combining the parking.
From this to this.
You're changing the parking for the three-family?
Well, it's in the same spot, it'd be a little larger than it is.
No,
Well,
I'm
not
looking
really, because you got the garage there.
Well, I'm looking at the existing.
Yep.
So you have 2 cars on one side of the garage
And 2 on the other.
and 2 on the other. Are those 4 cars for the 3 family?
Yes. Are they right now? Well, it's for the whole property right now, so they're using that for the single too right now. So you get a garage, and you get about 4.
families with 4 family dwelling with the 2 buildings together and 4 cars.
And a
plus
garage.
a garage.
Yes.
Plus a 1-car garage.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that gives you only 5 parking spaces?
Well, you could,
Right,
you
that's
could-
why
yeah.
you're expanding it. And, I mean, given that you're, massively increasing the amount of impermeable land, what kind of, drainage have you looked into and things like that at this point?
well, with the greenery, with the expansion of the grass, it's not currently there, and we're not changing any contour of the land or the level of the land. There's never been an issue there with drainage.
Well, but you're putting a big slab of parking in the middle of it, plus a large building. I mean, that's not nothing. That is.
Well, you'll have more runoff, but you'll have a lot more grass there now. You don't have grass there.
Anything else from the board?
Pretty clear cut.
Not yet.
Is there anyone in the gallery that wishes to be heard on this? Sure, come on up, folks.
Russell Mercier, 41 Summit Street. I live,
Excuse me, from where?
41 Summit. I live directly behind this property right here. Okay. I do have a couple of questions. We did talk about the fencing, and they agreed to put a 6-foot vinyl. So that's fine with us. We talked about the slope of the property. The end of the street is right here, where the end of this kind of match up here to the end of the street. There is a water issue there. The town drops all the snow there in the wintertime, and there is a water issue there. Now, we never had a big issue that it was, coming into the house or anything like that, in the front of the house. But with all these trees that have been removed, 40 or 50, I'm expecting water. Where they're gonna be pushing their snow down this way, the town's pushing their snow in here, we're gonna have water right in this corner of my property. That's my first concern. We didn't talk about a timeline when this building that's here is gonna come down. They told me that they couldn't occupy the new building till the old building came down, is that correct?
Repeat that again?
The building that's coming down,
Yeah.
I was told that they couldn't occupy the new building till the old building comes down.
I don't know the rules on that.
So we
That's
could
something we
possibly,
can find out when council
so we could possibly see that building still being rented out while they're still living in the new building?
Well, we can make a condition.
That we can make a condition.
Okay, all right.
That we can, once
Stipulate.
the new structure's occupied, that would have to be vacant and put some kind of time frame for
Okay.
it, for it to be demolished.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, that's fine.
That we can do something.
Okay.
I assume,
I did
Mr.
it,
Chairman, is that correct?
We can certainly make as many conditions
Right,
as we
okay.
like.
Well, it's for demoing the building, so it's kind of implied that they're demoing. the
Mhm.
building.
in The rendering on your maps, I mean, on your plot here, I did ask about a deck on the back of the building. It's not in your drawings anywhere that I can see, but they did tell me it couldn't be any bigger than 10 feet
Well, I would
from
assume
the
that-
back of the building.
I'm guessing that's for setback reasons, but I don't know. Is that the idea? Is that, yeah.
Okay, I just want to make
So
sure that,
because we are not granting a variance on that setback, and so unless they were to ask for one, it has to be within the zoning guidelines for distance.
so it won't be any bigger than the 10 feet that they propose? Because it's not on the plan as far as I can tell.
Yeah, so they've got 10 feet of room to build a deck.
Okay,
if
that's
they
fine.
wanted to.
Okay, all right. My last thing was, I understand that Megan has an interest in the Larkin Construction Company. I just want to make sure that they're not going to be bringing in their trucks or anything like that once the property is fixed up and they're living there. I don't want any of their construction trucks or materials on the property. So I have a concern about that.
Yeah, and to your earlier question about whether or not you could occupy both buildings, I mean, we are granting a variance to allow them to have two buildings on the property.
Oh, yeah, I understand
And so
that. It's the other one that's supposed to be coming down.
Right, but what that means is that they cannot have three occupied buildings
Okay,
on
all
that
right.
property. That is just
That's
simply,
fine.
like,
That's what they
unless we
told
granted
me.
them a variance
I'm
for
just
three.
asking these questions to put it on the record.
Right, no, and it
To
took
put
me a
it on
minute
the
to think
record.
about it, but
That's
yes,
all.
I think that
Yeah.
is the case.
Okay. I think that's all my questions.
Thank you.
We live across the street, basically across the street from the three-family. Our first concern was when Megan and Brandon came to us was they had three, they were gonna take everything down and put three up, which just didn't fit with the neighborhood. I've lived in the neighborhood for 21 years, and I think this is a good fit for the neighborhood. I just would like not to see the parking. I know you're concerned with the parking. I'd rather not see them merged altogether, because it's gonna look like a parking complex. And the other thing is, I agree with the other gentleman with the construction equipment, just not having it on site.
Does the applicant own a construction company? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Yeah, he owns a construction company, but he has a site in Methuen where he has all his construction equipment. He's a yard. It's in Methuen where his equipment is.
Because this is residential.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
He has an actual facility where he keeps his stuff.
how long has the applicant owned this property?
1 year?
Okay. And in that time, have you seen any, construction?
no,
of the park?
just when they were doing the clearing
Doing
the trees
work on
and
it.
stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, I just wanted to make sure that this
oh, yeah,
wasn't a
no.
pre-existing issue.
No,
Okay.
yep, no, and I'm for the project,
I don't
so
know.
my
No.
wife is also.
They couldn't run.
Thank you.
They couldn't run the business out of the house.
Hi, Alice Sheehan, 70 Ferber. I live directly across the empty lot that has nothing in it right now. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I just want to express my concerns on the parking and the volume of cars. I don't know what it will be. I'm just surmising what it could be. And if it's 3 and then 1, I don't know how many bedrooms, whatever, but it all sounds like multiple cars, a lot of cars, and I just want my concerns to be heard on the parking.
You live directly across from the vacant lot right now?
The empty lot,
Right,
yes.
So what they're proposing for that empty lot is a brand-new home.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't it be nice to look at, well, obviously.
No, I actually enjoyed looking at the trees, but that's just me.
That's why
You're
I
talking
bit
to
my
a green
tongue.
girl, sorry.
That's why I bit my tongue.
Yeah,
Okay,
sorry.
And I bit my tongue right.
Yeah. No, I understand. I have no issues with the house at all. The single family going there, I'm cool with that. It really is that plus the existing house with the three units, and just the volume of cars that it potentially attracts.
But there's
That's
gonna
all.
be no more units. There's no more additional units.
The other house that's there.
So what it is right now is right now, they have the three-family and the
Yep.
single-family.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't seem as if they currently have the proper parking for the three-family. The three-family requires, if it's, what do you have, two bedrooms? It's 3 bedrooms, but two bedrooms and one bedroom? Okay, so then that right there is 4, 5.5.
Right.
So 6 parking spaces.
Right.
Then the single-family
Right.
requires an additional 2.
2, right.
So currently what they're looking at, you're gonna have an increase to parking no matter what. Because what they're looking at right now isn't enough parking.
I know.
And unfortunately, there's,
Well, it's probably just, the same number of cars will be parking, it's just they will be parking on the lot instead of perhaps on the street.
Well, they're not
Somewhere else.
parking on the street, and
Well,
let's
there's-
hope they stay not parking
It
on the
doesn't seem like
street.
they're creating more demand. I mean, we're talking.
I don't know.
There's one
Don't
thing we're
know.
talking about complying with.
Visitors,
zoning.
parties, etc. I just want it on the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
you have 5 parking spots.
Hi, I'm Darlene Ellis. I live at 40 Summit Street, which abuts the house that they're going to demolish. And the parking, they said they're going to put up a fence. It would go right into my living room, for starters, with the lights. But I'm very concerned about the runoff, because I have water. I've lived in my house 48 years. I've never had a dry basement. I swear to God, there's a stream that comes right through there somehow. And I'm very concerned when they demolish that building and put parking, that it will go directly to my house.
According to the plan that they're looking at, they're not putting parking near your property.
I think it's directly into my living room is where those 6 cars are.
Oh, so you're worried about that side?
Yeah, I'm on Summit. It abuts Ferber, it tees to Ferber.
where you are here?
I would sit
Summit's on the
right
su-
here in my living room.
Wait.
Yeah, like.
That's their property.
Oh,
I think what she's saying is the house, the existing single-family blocks the headlights currently.
yeah, we don't even see the cars from that
Oh, I see.
3-family.
Oh,
Because the
okay.
house is in the way of the lights.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Like-
I understand. I see
Yeah,
what you're driving at.
but that parking lot would like go right to my house, and I believe the water will also come right to my house.
Well, according to that, they proposed some bushes and trees along the edge to stop the
I don't know.
the lights.
Yeah,
Like I
so
said,
that-
I haven't had a dry basement in 48
That won't do
years.
anything for water, though.
Yeah,
No,
so
we'll do light.
that's an issue. Thank you.
There's no, there are no contours on here. Which way is the ground sloped here?
Well, I think that's
That area is pretty much flat, but the street elevation is higher than the rear of the lot.
We'd still have to go to engineering anyway.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean,
we
my,
have to go to conservation too?
I don't
There's
think,
no
no,
conservation in
just
the area.
engineering.
There's no conservation?
They already went out there and inspected.
I mean, my biggest concern is actually less the 6 cars on the 3-family side and more on the single-family side, because that is, I mean, it's, about twice the area of pavement that you're adding as compared to the other side. And I wonder why it has to sort of be that big and come in on the side, and why there can't be something in front of the house.
Because there's a 2-car garage and entrance from the side of the house.
Would you mind coming to the podium,
Could be a
speak to the microphone so we can get you on the
two-car
record,
garage right
please?
here, so to make the turn.
Yeah.
Those 2 cars you're showing, theoretically, what you're saying, you won't even see them.
If they're in the garage, yeah.
Because they'll be
I mean,
parked in the
You're
garage.
talking about a couple with a small child, so it's a small house, not a big house. So you can have 2 or 3 cars. If you have children, you can, it's not a multi-family. You have a single family there now, so we're not changing the use. They're trying to make it look better. They want to live there. Initially, it was bought as an investment. Megan married Mr. Larkin, and she lived in North Andover majority of her life, so she wants to live in North Andover, and so it's going to be owner-occupied. Currently, it's not. It's all investment. So you'd have an actual owner on site who cares about what happens there.
My concern becomes the water.
Obviously, we'll address that issue. We have to address that issue if it's an issue. We'll deal with engineering on that. We can't have water pouring into someone else's yard.
So we're trying to still understand the impervious, that is, the driveways. So I'm looking at this diagram, so I'm gonna ask you just to help me with this, I don't have the dimensions. What is, let's go to the new single, family dwelling. What is the width? When I look at cars, it just seems like a lot of asphalt, and so, I mean, there aren't dimensions, so I don't.
Well, it's a conceptual plan. I mean, how wide are you gonna?
I believe that's like 20 feet, but, you know, the size of the driveway can be adjusted, we can make it smaller. It's just that size to show that the two cars will be able to fit down there in order to get access to get in and out of the garage, because it's on the side of the house. But the actual entrance could be restricted down to 15, or, you know, so that's only an access to get in and out of the driveway.
With the comments that have been made about annual, I'll call it annual flooding, is there any, call it conservation in here?
No.
No.
Conservation's already looked at it.
Okay.
You know, found, I mean, you're talking about the town pushing snow onto the property. Sounds like the town is plowing the snow and causing the problem with the melting. We're not. We're actually moving a house away from that, so.
Generally, it's just a snow issue in the springtime, and.
If you could return to the podium, because the microphone doesn't catch you.
Sure.
Catch you from way over there.
Generally, it's just a snow event type situation. There are times that I can't even get out the front of my house because there's so much snow because the town just dumps it at the end of the street. You know, then you might have in the summertime, every 20 years or so, you might have a really heavy rainstorm and there's a lot of water at the end of the street. And it gets into, you know, some of the neighbors' cellars. I've had a problem once. I'm just concerned that with, you know, if they're pushing snow down this way, the town's throwing snow this way, we're gonna have a lot of water there. That's my only concern. I mean, we like the plans. We're happy with it. We're looking forward to good neighbors over here. It's just the water issue.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Do you think there are any drainage controls you can put in there? Do you think there's any drainage control you can put in there when you, a swale or something like that that will direct it to the road, to the Ferber?
More concerned that would create some type of wetland issue then, you know.
But you can't get it up to Ferber, to the gutter line of Ferber, right?
Well, the only way you do that, we'd have to plow out away, you know, all of our snow out onto the street. I don't think the town would be too impressed with that, would it?
I mean, that
Well, you
sounds
said
like
it's higher. I
maybe,
just didn't know if you could have a swale so that it would.
that sounds like a town issue, though, that should be addressed maybe with the way they're plowing that. I mean, that could be, they should have a front end loader taking it out if it's an issue like that, not pushing it into their front yards.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like an easy fix if the town just plows it properly.
I don't know if the town's gonna be out there loading up the snow, though.
It's never happened. Never happened in about 35 years I've lived in. Not gonna happen now.
But he could address some kind of water issue at the end of the driveway somehow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you,
We-
I mean,
we-
take care of
I mean, I
your.
can see that problem
We
happening.
if it came down to, we could put a great drain down here, any water comes down, could go into that, and then put some type of infiltration system into that grass area there. That would stop any water from, we do the same with this area here too, we could put some type of infiltration to catch any water from that. Parking
I
also.
I think those are very good ideas, and then I know that that's just conceptual. I would also ask you to look at the, you know, I'm gonna say minimize the driveways, so that there is not, with the trees being removed, you know, and then with the house being moved, I mean, you know, there's gonna be some changes to the topography there. I would also just ask that as it goes from the conceptual to the specifics, just look at the dimensions of the asphalt.
Do you need any other permitting after this?
just building permit.
Just building permit?
Our intention too is to, on the 3 families, so we're doing new windows, new siding, and replace the front porches. So we're gonna approve that also, because our intention is to keep that piece of real estate as our own investment. So we're gonna try to beautify that property too. So we wanna be living next door to a nicer looking building also.
Any other comments from the board?
I don't know, I guess. I would feel more comfortable, given what people are talking about with water and possible drainage and everything else, if this came back with that as part of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And more specifics on the dimensions of the paving as well, just because I appreciate that this is conceptual, but like I don't think you need 2 car width on the curb cut on the single family home. Like I think you can have a much narrower space, and I think there's ways to cut down on the impermeable material a lot there. But and I mean, I don't know, maybe no one else is at all confused as to why this is a single lot versus 2 lots, but except that that's just what it's been up to this point.
Well, I think that, I guess they could probably approach it either way. One might benefit them more over the other, I don't know, but
I mean, it's a weird. I don't know. I don't know how common this is because I've not been here that long. But it seems like a weird variance to ask to be able to put 2 buildings on a lot.
They're not though, because there's already,
Right.
It would,
It's pre-existing, but yeah.
put it this way, the last application we had was much more unusual, where they actually wanted to put another home on a lot that wasn't already there.
Right. Okay.
So if it wasn't there, it might be a little bit more awkward. I agree, I would split the lot, but
This is just a different way to skin the cat, but I shared your comments earlier, and that it feels like there was something a little bit more intellectually straightforward to subdivide this and make it 2 lots. And then at the same time, the creative person who's trying to manage their way through the Byzantine zoning code, for crying out loud. This is a way to skin the cat. I share the discomfort because I've been here for a decade and I haven't seen a compound kind of before. I mean, I've seen a shed, but I haven't seen 2 full structures on the same lot. So that takes some of myself getting comfortable with it as well. I was also sharing the observation that the amount of driveway on the single family side was something more than modest. So I share that concern with the other commenters. I would ask on the next plan that those items be addressed along with the water infiltration system, and along with kind of please illustrate where the fence is going to go. I think I heard one of the public commenters indicate that there was an agreement for fence. To kind of show where that is. I would ask, is this a row of new plantings, or are these existing plantings?
And they were built with their proposal.
Okay.
Pretty much right for that last night.
Okay.
It's just a fence back there currently.
Anything else from, well, we are headed for a continuance. When is the next meeting, Merrill?
December 10th.
December 10th. Thank you, Ms. Jacobs.
I'm trying to help out,
So then, unless the applicant needs us to vote on it tonight, I think we're headed for a
That's
continuance.
fine.
Okay,
We'd like to
brilliant.
accommodate your questions and concerns.
Brilliant. We'll just need I think Merrill will need a time waiver from you, and is there a motion to continue?
I make a motion to continue.
I'll second it.
Motion made and.
Discussion on that.
Motion
Discussion.
on the continuance?
Yeah.
Hit me.
Okay.
What?
Are you familiar, do you know what we're looking for on the new plan to come to us?
Yes,
As far as the 2 infiltration systems in the hot tub?
yes,
You're comfortable with that?
yes.
Okay, let's go, let's do it.
Thank you,
Yep.
Mr. Motion made and, so who was the second, by the way? I missed it.
I second it.
Steve did. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, we are continued to December 10th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have- we have-
And that was with my rant.
We have one more item. We have one more
We have
item.
the calendar.
The last item on the agenda is the acceptance of the 2020 meeting schedule, which is something that we saw last month. It just has kind of
Did
formatting.
my name get fixed? Oh, my name got fixed.
There was just formatting. So is there a, unless there's comment, is there a
I make a
motion?
motion to accept the 2020 meeting schedule.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, boy, it was a race. We're gonna give it to Ron, just because he's closer to Merrill.
Well, I never get the second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
I
All
make a
opposed?
motion to,
Is there a
and-
motion to close?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn,
second.
fine. And motion made and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? No. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
my back is killing.